Welcome back, fellow seekers of the shadows. You've tuned into Stories of Crime, the place where the veil between the mundane and the monstrous is brutally ripped away. Tonight, we aren't just reading a report. We are opening a file, marked top priority, tucked away in the darkest corner of the archives. We're going to step across that chalk line and peer into the void, where human nature meets its most terrifying extremes. In this hour, the street lights flicker, the shadows deepen, and the truth is often far more chilling than any fiction you could invent. Forget the heroes. Tonight, we focus on the villains. On the motives that curdle the blood, and the consequences that echo forever. So, dim the lights. Lock your doors. Take a deep, steadying breath, because once the story begins, there's no turning back. This is Stories of Crime. And the case we're unfolding tonight is the Red House Mystery. Look, the shot rings out. Welcome, dear listener, to a journey into the heart of one of Agatha Christie's earliest and most captivating mysteries, the Red House Mystery. In this particular session, we are going to embark on an immersive exploration of the very first chapter, a brilliant piece of storytelling titled Look, the Shot Rings Out. Our mission, if you will, is to dive headfirst into the core concept driving this foundational chapter, to immerse you, the listener, directly and viscerally into the inciting incident, the pivotal moment of crime at the seemingly tranquil Red House, thereby creating an immediate, gripping sense of suspense that pulls you irrevocably into the narrative. Imagine, for a moment, the skilled hands of a master painter preparing their canvas. They don't simply splash color haphazardly, they lay down the groundwork, establish the mood, and then, with deliberate precision, introduce the focal point. Agatha Christie, in this opening, does precisely that, but with words, sounds, and emotions. Her canvas is the seemingly idyllic English countryside, a setting synonymous with peace and order, and the focal point she introduces is nothing short of chaos and murder. The genius lies in the abruptness, the sheer unexpectedness, with which the ordinary is shattered, leaving us disoriented, intrigued, and desperate for answers. It's a fundamental principle of effective mystery writing. You must grab your audience by the lapels from the very first breath, ensuring they have no choice but to listen, to observe, to question. This direct immersion into the inciting incident isn't merely a stylistic choice, it's a profound psychological strategy. What happens when our expectations of tranquility are brutally disrupted? Our minds, accustomed to patterns and predictability, are suddenly confronted with an anomaly, a violent rupture in the fabric of normalcy. This immediate disorientation fosters a powerful emotional response, curiosity mixed with a touch of unease, perhaps even a hint of fear. We are no longer passive observers, we become active participants in the unfolding drama, compelled to understand the why and the how of such an egregious act occurring in such an unlikely setting. It is the literary equivalent of a cold splash of water to the face, ensuring absolute wakefulness and attention. Think about the psychological impact of a sudden, loud noise in a quiet room. Your heart rate quickens, your senses sharpen, your attention narrows instantly to the source of the disturbance. Christie leverages this innate human response. She doesn't build slowly to the crime, she throws us into the immediate aftermath, or rather, the very instant of its occurrence, ensuring that the initial shock resonates deeply within us, the listeners. This is not a slow burn, it is an explosive beginning, designed to override any preconceived notions of leisurely exposition and plunge us directly into the heart of the enigma. The tranquility, once established, serves only to amplify the horror of its violation. The more peaceful the initial scene, the more jarring and impactful the subsequent violence becomes. It's a deliberate juxtaposition, a narrative trick that seasoned storytellers employ to maximize emotional resonance and immediate engagement. And Agatha Christie, even in these early works, demonstrates her innate mastery of this critical technique. Now, let us delve into the specific techniques Christie employs to achieve this powerful immersion, breaking down the elements that contribute to this unforgettable opening. Our journey will unfold through three crucial key points, each building upon the last to construct that initial, indelible impression. Our first crucial step, the very foundation upon which the suspense is built, is the meticulous establishment of a serene ambient atmosphere, the quintessential sounds and feelings of an English summer afternoon. Before the storm, before the chaos, there must be a profound peace. This tranquility isn't merely background noise, it's a deliberate psychological primer, setting the stage for. She allows the rhythm of the prose to reflect this calm, using flowing sentences, perhaps longer descriptions, avoiding anything abrupt or jarring in these initial moments. This unhurried introduction to the setting allows the listener's mind to fully absorb the tranquility, to internalize the feeling of safety, making them perfectly susceptible to the shock that is about to follow. It's an exercise in narrative patience, a willingness to build atmosphere before unleashing the plot, a crucial step that many eager storytellers sometimes rush, to their detriment. The pause, the breath before the plunge, is as important as the plunge itself. Now, we move to the pivotal moment, the shattering of that meticulously crafted piece. Our second key point is the abrupt and violent interruption of the serenity by the sharp, concussive crack of a gunshot, followed immediately by a panicked, piercing scream. This is the precise moment the hook truly sinks in, transforming a pleasant narrative into a gripping mystery. Imagine the sudden, unexpected crack. A sound entirely alien to the pastoral symphony we've just absorbed. It's sharp, metallic, aggressive, tearing through the gentle hum of summer. It doesn't fade in, it explodes into existence. And before the echoes of that report have even fully dissipated, perhaps even overlapping with them, comes the raw, visceral sound of a human scream. Not a cry of annoyance, not a call for attention, but a shriek born of terror, a sound that speaks of sudden pain, fear, and profound distress. This combination, the mechanical violence of the gun and the primal horror of the scream, is designed to jolt the listener, to rip them from their comfortable state of peaceful observation and thrust them into immediate, undeniable crisis. Psychologically, the impact of such an abrupt interruption is immense and multifaceted. Firstly, it triggers an instant physiological response. Our limbic system, the ancient part of our brain responsible for fight or flight, activates. Our attention snaps to alert, our bodies tense, and a jolt of adrenaline courses through us. This is not a subtle hint, it is an undeniable call to attention. The suddenness of it prevents our rational minds from fully processing the information before our primitive fear responses kick in. We are instinctively on edge, primed for danger. Secondly, this immediate, shocking event creates what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. We have just been presented with a picture of perfect peace. The gunshot and scream directly contradict this established reality. Our minds struggle to reconcile these two opposing pieces of information, creating an uncomfortable tension. This tension is precisely what drives curiosity and engagement in a mystery. We are compelled to resolve this dissonance, to understand how such violence could erupt from such calm. The brain demands an explanation for the incongruity, and that demand fuels our desire to continue listening. For a powerful storytelling example of this technique, let's look to the opening of Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. The film begins with a seemingly mundane, even illicit, lunchtime tryst between Marion Crane and her lover. It's a quiet, intimate scene, albeit with a touch of moral ambiguity. The atmosphere is hushed, conversational, establishing Marion's ordinary, if slightly fraught, existence. Then, with the iconic shower scene, the tranquility, the assumed safety of a private motel room, is obliterated. The sudden, screeching violins, the rapid cuts, and the brutal, silent stabbing are a horrifying, abrupt intrusion. There's no slow build to the attack, it explodes onto the screen with shocking speed and violence. The contrast between Marion's quiet, private moment of vulnerability and the sudden, merciless assault is what makes it one of the most famous and effective shock sequences in cinematic history. The suddenness ensures maximum impact, leaving the audience breathless and utterly disoriented. We are forced to confront an unexpected reality, one that is far more terrifying. He isn't necessarily an expected guest, he is described as if he is encountering the house for the first time, or at least, the events unfolding within it. His reaction to the gunshot and scream provides immediate characterization. Does he freeze in fear? Does he rush forward? His immediate action or inaction tells us much about him and sets the tone for his involvement. Christie uses his arrival to immediately funnel the listener's attention through a specific viewpoint, ensuring that our initial interpretation of the events is filtered through his experience. This is not a detached, omniscient narration of the crime, it is the bewildered, immediate perception of a character who is just as surprised and perhaps as threatened as we are. Moreover, his arrival avoids the narrative pitfall of having the crime occur in a vacuum, or only being discovered much later. By having a character witness, or nearly witness, the moment of violence, Christie ensures that the immediate aftermath, the critical evidence, and the initial reactions are captured in real time. This not only heightens the realism but also accelerates the plot, plunging us directly into the investigative phase, even if it's an informal one initiated by a curious outsider. Anthony Gillingham becomes our surrogate detective, our eyes and ears, and his presence immediately provides a dynamic element to the otherwise static shock of the crime. His unexpected appearance is the fuse that lights the investigative fire, making him indispensable to the unfolding drama from the very first moments of the chapter. His perfect timing is not a coincidence, it is a calculated narrative decision, designed to propel the story forward with an irresistible momentum. So, to summarize our deep dive into Hook, the shot rings out from the Red House mystery. We've explored how Agatha Christie masterfully immerses the listener directly into the inciting incident, thereby generating immediate and powerful suspense. She achieves this through a carefully orchestrated three-part symphony of narrative techniques. Firstly, she begins by painting a vivid, almost dreamlike picture of serenity. The English summer afternoon at the Red House is meticulously crafted with sensory details, from the hum of bees to the scent of roses, establishing a baseline of peace and normalcy. This initial tranquility is not just atmospheric filler, it is a psychological primer, designed to relax the listener, to lower their guard, and to create an emotional investment in the calm before the storm. The more profound the peace, the more devastating its subsequent violation. It's an act of narrative patience that pays dividends in amplified emotional impact. Secondly, this established serenity is abruptly and violently shattered by the sharp crack of a gunshot and the immediate, panicked human scream. This isn't a gradual escalation, it's an instantaneous rupture. This sudden jolt triggers our primal fight or flight response, demanding immediate attention and creating profound cognitive dissonance. The unexpected violence against the backdrop of quiet beauty compels our minds to seek answers, to reconcile the incongruity, thereby drawing us deeper into the mystery. The shock is designed to be visceral, unforgettable, and entirely engaging. And thirdly, at this precise moment of chaos and revelation, Anthony Gillingham, an unexpected outsider, makes his timely entrance. His arrival serves multiple narrative functions. He becomes our immediate point of view character, mirroring our own confusion and questions, fostering an instant connection. Simultaneously, his perfect timing inherently creates dramatic tension and suspicion, making him an intriguing figure who is both observer and potentially implicated. His presence ensures that the unfolding drama is witnessed, analyzed, and propelled forward from the very first instance. Each of these elements, meticulously woven together by Christie, serves to create a powerful and undeniable hook. We are not told a crime happened, we are practically there when it does. We feel. It wasn't a yelp of surprise, it was a desperate, guttural cry for help, cut abruptly short, almost unnaturally, as if choked off, swallowed by an ensuing, terrifying quiet. Imagine Anthony Gillingham, frozen in that moment. One hand perhaps still raised, poised to knock, his foot hovering over the threshold. His heart, previously beating at a relaxed pace, would have lurched, a cold dread washing over him. The world around him, moments ago so familiar and comforting, would have warped, becoming menacing and alien. The scent of honeysuckle would suddenly seem cloying, the warmth of the sun a cruel mockery. He wouldn't have known what had happened, or to whom, or where precisely the sounds had originated, but the implication was immediate, undeniable, and chilling. Something terrible had just occurred inside the Red House. The sheer unexpectedness of it, the jarring contrast between the idyllic setting and the brutal sounds, would have sent a jolt of adrenaline through him. His casual visit had transformed into an urgent intervention. There was no time for deliberation, no space for polite hesitation. The rules of social calls, of decorum, were instantly obliterated by the stark reality of the situation. He wouldn't have consciously chosen to act, instinct would have taken over, propelling him forward. That gunshot, that scream, and Antony's almost simultaneous arrival create an immediate, inescapable vortex of suspense. It's not just a mystery of who committed the crime, but the more primal, more terrifying mystery of what has happened, who is hurt, and what danger might still lurk within those walls. The listener, like Antony, is plunged headfirst into the scene, privy to the very moment of disruption, the instant the world shifted on its axis for the inhabitants of the Red House. We don't merely hear about a crime after the fact, we experience its violent birth, its jarring intrusion into a perfect setting. The quiet beauty of the surroundings amplifies the horror, making the violence all the more shocking, all the more unnatural. The abruptness of it leaves no room for preamble, no gentle easing into the narrative. We are there, holding our breath, listening to the echoes, feeling the silence, alongside Antony. This meticulously crafted opening does more than just present a crime, it establishes a visceral connection between the listener and the unfolding drama. We are not just passive observers, we become participants, our senses heightened, our imaginations working overtime to fill in the terrifying blanks. The serenity that preceded the violence makes the intrusion all the more profound, underlining the fragility of peace and the suddenness with which it can be shattered. Antony's presence at the exact moment of the crime is not a mere plot device, it's the fulcrum upon which the entire narrative pivots. Without him there, the immediate aftermath would unfold differently, the initial confusion and critical details might be lost. His timely or perhaps untimely arrival ensures an immediate, albeit bewildered, response, setting in motion the chain of events that will ultimately lead to a painstaking investigation. The questions that ignite within us are the same questions that immediately assail Antony: what has just transpired? Is someone dead? Is the perpetrator still inside? The suddenness, the violence, the immediate silence, and the lack of concrete information all converge to create an unbearable tension, a desperate need to understand, to uncover the truth. This isn't merely a story about a mystery, it's an invitation to solve it, starting from the very first, terrifying sound. The Red House, once a symbol of calm and continuity, is now tainted, its walls echoing with violence. And from this single, fateful moment, the serene afternoon shattered by a gunshot and a scream, witnessed by an accidental arrival, the true intricacies of the Red House mystery begin to unravel, drawing us into a labyrinth of hidden motives, tangled relationships, and unexpected revelations. The peace is gone, replaced by a chilling you. It was sharp, metallic, unbelievably loud, and horribly definitive. A gunshot. The crack ripped through the air with a brutal finality, tearing the fabric of the peaceful afternoon to shreds. It wasn't just a sound, it was a physical blow, vibrating through the very ground beneath Antony's feet, through the air he breathed, rattling the birds from their comfortable perches in a sudden, panicked flurry. And then, as if drawn from the very depths of human terror, came the scream. It wasn't a cry of surprise, or a shout of annoyance. It was a primal, gut-wrenching shriek, laden with pure, unadulterated horror and a profound, bone-deep pain. It was a sound that curdled the blood, a sound that spoke of sudden agony, of a life violently interrupted, of a moment of unimaginable terror. The scream hung in the air, a raw, ragged wound, echoing off the ancient walls of the Red House before being swallowed by an even more terrifying silence. The silence that followed was not the peaceful quiet of moments before. It was a suffocating, heavy blanket, a sudden vacuum where sound had been, a silence that pulsed with unspoken horror and the frantic beating of Antony's own heart. Every natural sound, the bees, the birds, the rustling leaves, seemed to have been violently muted, replaced by an oppressive stillness that pressed down, demanding attention. It was the silence of shock, of tragedy, of the world holding its breath, waiting for the aftermath. Antony Gillingham, a man of intellect and observation, found himself frozen. One moment, he was an amiable visitor, enjoying the warmth of a perfect day. The next, he was an unwitting witness, a bystander thrust into the epicenter of a cataclysmic event. His mind, accustomed to logical deduction and the polite conventions of society, struggled to process the abrupt transition. The scent of roses was now mingled with an imagined scent of gunpowder, the gentle breeze seemed to carry a chill, and the beautiful Red House now loomed, ominous and foreboding, a silent tomb for whatever terrible act had just transpired within its walls. His instincts, however, were not to flee. Instead, a surge of adrenaline propelled him forward. The tranquility was gone, utterly annihilated. In its place, a palpable tension now vibrated through the air, thick and suffocating. He moved towards the house, his steps quickening, his gaze sweeping the ornate, yet suddenly menacing, facade for any sign of life, any explanation, any reprieve from the terrifying implications of what he had just heard. The heavy oak front door, usually an inviting portal, now seemed to guard a dark secret, a threshold to a scene of unimaginable chaos. This unexpected arrival, this precise timing, was more than mere coincidence, it was fate, weaving Anthony Gillingham inexorably into the tapestry of the unfolding mystery. He was not just arriving at a house, he was arriving at a crime scene, at the very moment of its inception, before the dust had settled, before the official inquiries could begin, before the witnesses could compose themselves or, perhaps, compose their lies. He was present for the raw, unedited horror, a singular point of reference in what would soon become a bewildering labyrinth of suspicion and deceit. The serene English summer afternoon, once a symbol of peace and predictability, had been brutally defiled. The Red House, once a beacon of comfort and tradition, now stood as a monument to a sudden, violent transgression. And Anthony Gillingham, who sought only a brief respite, found himself instead at the precipice of a profound darkness, drawn into a web of human passion, betrayal, and murder. The gunshot was not just a sound, it was a tearing of the veil, exposing the fragility of peace, the insidious nature of hidden grievances, and the chilling reality that even in the most picturesque settings, the human heart can harbor the darkest intentions. His journey from casual visitor to accidental detective began not with a formal invitation, but with the echo of a scream that would haunt the quiet halls of the Red House. But to arrive at the precise, horrifying crescendo, to hear the shot and the scream simultaneously, meant he was an unvarnished witness to the instant of impact. His perception was untainted by preconceived notions of the aftermath, unburdened by the narratives that would inevitably follow. He was an accidental archivist of the precise moment when peace died at the Red House. This put him in a unique, yet perilous, position. He held a fragment of undeniable truth, even if he didn't yet understand its full significance. The very atmosphere of the Red House seemed to thicken, pressing in on him. The air was no longer merely warm, it felt heavy, charged with unspoken questions. Every shadow now seemed to harbor a secret, every rustle of leaves a whispered warning. The pastoral ideal had shattered, revealing a darker, more complex reality where human nature, with all its flaws and hidden depths, was about to be laid bare. The consequences of this single, violent act would ripple outwards, touching every life connected to the estate, forcing them to confront not only a murder but also the buried truths and suppressed emotions that had festered silently for years within these venerable walls. This was no ordinary crime, this was a violent eruption in the heart of apparent tranquility, a testament to the fact that even the most picturesque settings can become stages for the darkest human dramas. The Red House, a monument to a gentler era, was now irrevocably marked, its pleasant facade forever stained by the memory of that shot and scream. It stood as a silent challenge to Anthony, an unspoken plea to unravel its newfound darkness. He had driven here expecting a pleasant social call, perhaps a game of tennis or a quiet afternoon of conversation. Instead, he was greeted by the raw, brutal sound of murder, and the chilling silence that followed, demanding answers. The adventure he found wasn't one of polite society, but one of grim reality, where the intricate web of human relationships would be brutally exposed, and the consequences of a single, violent act would unravel lives and legacies. The very essence of the Red House mystery begins here, at this precise juncture of serene beauty and sudden horror. It challenges us, the listeners, to look beyond the surface, to question every polite smile, every casual remark, every seemingly innocent detail. For in a place where such a violent act could occur, surrounded by the idyllic trappings of wealth and ease, nothing can be taken at face value. The hidden motives lurking beneath polite facades are not abstract concepts, they are the very engine of this tragedy, simmering beneath the surface, waiting for the spark. And that spark, that dreadful gunshot, has just ignited them all, sending ripples of suspicion and fear through the lives of everyone within these walls. Anthony Gillingham, standing there, an uninvited guest to a moment of pure terror, is our proxy, our eyes and ears, compelled to delve into the heart of this darkness. He is the first witness, the first investigator, forced into the role by the sheer, unyielding force of circumstance. The Red House, once a symbol of stability, was now a vortex of uncertainty, its tranquility a mere memory, replaced by the chilling whisper of a secret yet to be unearthed, a justice yet to be sought. The quietude of the English summer had been shattered, and its fragments lay scattered, glinting with the sharp edge of truth, waiting to be painstakingly reassembled. This isn't just a story about a crime, it's a profound exploration of what drives us, what breaks us, and how even the most carefully constructed lives can unravel in the blink of an eye, or the sudden, deafening crack of a single gunshot. The initial shock, a cold wave of disbelief, slowly began to recede, leaving in its wake a burning sense of urgency within Anthony. The perfect summer afternoon had been utterly annihilated, replaced by a visceral awareness of danger and the stark reality of human brutality. The sun still shone, the birds would eventually return to their songs. Bulletin. Intro, narrator POV. The idyllic facade. Welcome, dear listener, to the second chapter of our journey into the captivating world of the Red House mystery. As your companion and guide, I invite you to settle in, perhaps with a cup of tea or whatever soothing beverage takes your fancy, as we prepare to step through the grand gates and into the meticulously manicured grounds of the estate that lends its name to our tale. This particular chapter, you see, serves a truly vital function. It is our introductory stroll, a moment of thoughtful observation from the narrator's vantage point, where we will begin to piece together the mosaic of characters and circumstances that will soon unravel into a perplexing puzzle. Our aim, above all else, is to establish a witty, conversational tone, much like two old friends discussing the latest intriguing gossip over a quiet afternoon. We're not just reciting facts, We're engaging in a delightful exploration, setting the scene with careful brush strokes and introducing the key players who will dance, or perhaps stumble, through the intricacies of this classic whodunit. Isn't it often the case, in the most enduring mysteries, that the narrator becomes more than just a voice? They become, in essence, our confidant, our fellow detective, a seasoned observer whose insights and rhetorical flourishes guide us not only through the plot but also through the very psychology of suspicion and deduction. This is precisely the role we shall embrace here. We aim for a tone that is warm, inviting, and professional, yet never dry or overly academic. Think of it as sitting by a crackling fire, absorbing a fascinating anecdote from a well-traveled acquaintance who possesses a keen eye for human nature and a delightful turn of phrase. We want to draw you in, to make you feel as if you are privy to the inner workings of this world, almost an invisible guest at the Red House itself, observing the subtle glances, the hushed conversations, and the undercurrents of emotion that ripple beneath the surface of polite society. The beauty of a witty, conversational tone in an audiobook, particularly one that inaugurates a mystery, lies in its capacity to disarm the listener, to invite them into a sense of comfort and familiarity before the inevitable disruption occurs. It's a delicate dance, really. We want to infuse our descriptions with a light touch, a certain archness, perhaps even a hint of gentle irony, that acknowledges the artifice of storytelling while simultaneously deepening its immersion. How many times have you found yourself utterly captivated by a speaker whose words flow effortlessly, adorned with just the right amount of charm and intellectual playfulness? That's the elusive quality we strive for. This isn't merely about relaying information, it's about performing the introduction, giving each character and descriptive detail a distinct flavor, allowing their personalities to emerge not just from what is said, but from how it is said. We shall avoid, with utmost diligence, any hint of repetitiveness. Each phrase, each sentence, is a fresh opportunity to engage your imagination, to paint a vivid picture, and to deepen your understanding. And rhetorical questions, they are our trusted allies in this endeavor, aren't they? They serve to punctuate our observations, to invite your active participation, transforming you from a passive recipient of information into an active participant in the unfolding narrative. Don't you agree, or have you ever pondered? These are not merely linguistic embellishments, they are strategic invitations to shared contemplation, fostering a sense of camaraderie between narrator and listener. They mimic the natural rhythms of conversation, making the experience feel less like a lecture and more like an intimate dialogue. This, my friends, is the bedrock upon which we shall build our entire understanding of the Red House mystery, beginning with this crucial introductory chapter. Now, let us turn our attention to the specific architectural elements of this chapter, the foundational pillars upon which the subsequent drama will be constructed. Our first key point is to describe Mark Ablett and his eccentric mix of house guests. Mark Ablett. The very name conjures a certain image, does it not? A man of means, certainly, but perhaps also a man of whimsy, of peculiar tastes, and an undeniable magnetism that draws an equally fascinating array of individuals into his orbit. Think, for a moment, of the archetypal host in classic literature. Isn't there often a certain theatricality to their gatherings, an unspoken understanding that the assembling of such a disparate group under one roof is an event in itself? Mark Ablett fits this mold perfectly. He is not merely a figurehead, he is the orchestrator, the impresario, if you will, of the social symphony that is about to commence at the Red House. What sort of man, you might ask, would consciously gather such an eclectic collection of personalities? One might deduce a certain confidence, perhaps even a touch of mischievous delight in observing the interactions of individuals who, under normal circumstances, might never cross paths. This isn't merely hospitality, it's a social experiment, a living tableau curated by a man who undoubtedly understands the subtle art of human dynamics. Let me offer a real-world storytelling example to illuminate this concept of an eccentric host and his varied guests. Consider, if you will, the literary salons of 18th and 19th century Europe. Figures like Madame de Staël or Lady Caroline Lamb, known for their brilliant intellect and unconventional lifestyles, would gather around them a veritable constellation of artists, philosophers, politicians, and socialites. These were not merely parties, they were intellectual arenas, stages for wit and debate, where the host's personality often dictated the flavor and intensity of the discourse. The guests, much like those at the Red House, were chosen not just for their status, but for their ability to contribute to the intellectual and social tapestry of the gathering. Each guest brought their own particular hue to the palette, creating a vibrant, sometimes clashing, but always captivating picture. The host, in these instances, was not just opening their home, they were opening a world, carefully curated to reflect their own unique vision and sensibilities. From a psychological perspective, why does this matter so profoundly in storytelling? Why do we, as listeners and readers, find ourselves so drawn to characters who defy convention, who gather others around them in an unconventional manner? It's because eccentricity, dear friends, often signals depth, a mind that operates on a different frequency from the mundane. It suggests a backstory, experiences that have shaped a unique worldview, and it immediately sets a character apart from the crowd, making them memorable and intriguing. An eccentric host like Mark Ablett isn't just a plot device, he's a psychological anchor. His peculiarities provide a lens through which we begin to understand the wider world of the Red House. His choices in guests, furthermore, become a reflection of his own inner landscape. Does he seek stimulation, validation, amusement, or perhaps even something more nefarious from his carefully selected companions? Moreover, the psychological significance of a diverse, even eccentric, group of house guests is immense. Each guest, by virtue of their distinct personality, background, and perhaps even their hidden. We crave harmony, and when that harmony is disrupted, particularly in a setting that epitomizes it, it evokes a powerful emotional response, a sense of unease, vulnerability, and a profound disquiet. The beautiful country estate, in this context, acts as a psychological sanctuary, a place where one expects security and tranquility. When tragedy strikes within its hallowed walls, it challenges our very assumptions about safety and predictability. It creates a feeling of the uncanny, the unheimlich, where the familiar suddenly becomes unsettlingly strange. The very ground beneath our feet, once firm and reassuring, suddenly feels treacherous. It's the violation of a sacred space, a rupture in the fabric of what we deem to be good and true. Moreover, this psychological impact is magnified by the concept of locus of control. In an idyllic setting, we often feel a sense of control, or at least a lack of immediate threat. The landscape is ordered, the routines are predictable, the societal rules are understood. The introduction of tragedy into such a space strips away that perceived control, plunging both characters and audience into a state of uncertainty and fear. It forces us to confront the fragility of even the most secure environments and the lurking potential for darkness within human nature, regardless of the veneer of civilization and beauty. It's a powerful narrative tool to underscore the pervasive nature of human folly and malice. Now, for a practical application step for you, the discerning listener. As you engage with any narrative, especially a mystery, pay meticulous attention to the descriptions of the setting before any major conflict or tragedy occurs. What words are used to convey its beauty, its peace, its opulence? Are there subtle details that, in retrospect, might seem less benign? A shadow that falls just so, a particular plant that seems out of place, a silence that is perhaps a little too profound. Authors are masters of subtlety. They often embed clues, or at least hints of discord, within the most beautiful descriptions. Look for contrasts, a vibrant garden next to a crumbling wall, a cheerful parlor with a locked, dusty door, a sunny day suddenly overcast by a fleeting cloud. Furthermore, consider how the atmosphere shifts as the narrative progresses. Does the once idyllic setting begin to feel oppressive, claustrophobic, or even sinister after the tragedy? Does the beauty itself start to mock the character's suffering, or does it become a stark reminder of what has been lost? By actively observing these shifts, by noting how the author uses the setting to reflect or foreshadow the emotional and thematic currents of the story, you will deepen your appreciation for the craft of storytelling. You will begin to understand how the physical environment is not just a backdrop, but an active participant, a mirror reflecting the internal turmoil of its inhabitants and the insidious creeping of fate. The house itself often holds secrets, whispered through its very architecture, if only we are attuned enough to listen. This brings us, with a subtle shift in tone, to our third crucial point, foreshadowing the arrival of Mark's estranged, trouble-making brother, Robert. Ah, the absent presence. Isn't it fascinating how a character can loom so large in a narrative even before they have uttered a single word or made a physical appearance? Robert is precisely such a figure. His impending arrival is not merely an event, it is a dark cloud gathering on the horizon, an unsettling tremor preceding a larger earthquake. He is the embodiment of the trouble in troublemaking, and his very existence casts a long, ominous shadow over the otherwise pleasant gathering at the Red House. The mere mention of his name, we can imagine, causes a subtle shift in conversation, a tightening of smiles, a discreet exchange of glances among the other guests. He is the elephant in the room, even when he's not physically present. Let me offer a real-world storytelling example of how an absent character can profoundly influence. We shall begin with the deep dive into the core concept itself, setting our tone and articulating our storytelling philosophy, before gracefully transitioning into the specifics of Mark Ablett, his guests, the Red House, and the looming shadow of Robert. Remember, our goal is not just to convey information, but to invite you into a shared experience of discovery, rich with nuance and compelling detail, always striving for that warm, engaging, and thoroughly professional voice that makes every word a pleasure to absorb. Let us begin. Start of audiobook script. Hello again, and welcome back to our delightful literary excursion. I trust you've found a comfortable nook, perhaps a favorite armchair, because in this second chapter, we are about to truly settle into the world of the Red House mystery. This isn't merely a transition from one segment to the next, it's an invitation, a gentle beckoning to step across the threshold into the heart of our story, where the stage is meticulously set, and the players are poised for their entrance. This chapter, you see, is our grand opening, our curtain raiser, and its primary purpose, its very beating heart, is to establish a witty, conversational tone while we meticulously set the scene and, with a flourish, introduce the key players of this classic whodunit. Now, why a witty, conversational tone, you might ask? And what does that truly entail in the realm of an audiobook? Well, imagine for a moment that you are not simply listening to a recording, but rather engaging in an absorbing chat with an old friend, a friend who happens to possess an uncanny knack for storytelling, a keen eye for detail, and a delightful turn of phrase. This isn't a dry recitation of facts, nor is it an academic lecture. Oh, no. This is an invitation to shared discovery, a journey we undertake together, where my voice acts as a guiding hand, pointing out the subtle nuances, the delightful eccentricities, and the tantalizing hints that might otherwise slip past an unengaged ear. The wit, you see, serves to lighten the potentially heavy burden of exposition, to infuse our descriptions with a sparkle, a certain knowing glint that acknowledges the delicious anticipation inherent in a mystery. We're not just presenting information, we're performing it, bringing it to life with an ebb and flow that mirrors natural conversation, punctuated by moments of gentle humor and thoughtful reflection. Think of it as the art of making the complex appear effortless, the intricate seem charming. A conversational tone, particularly in an audiobook, creates an intimacy, a direct line of communication between myself, your narrator, and you, the discerning listener. It's about building a rapport, fostering a sense of camaraderie that makes you feel not like an audience member, but like a trusted confidant, privy to insights and observations that might escape the casual observer. We're in this together, aren't we? We're piecing together the initial fragments, speculating about the potential significance of a fleeting glance or a hushed comment, and reveling in the sheer joy of a well-told story. This kind of tone allows for rhetorical questions, for moments of shared ponderance, as if I'm asking you, isn't that just fascinating, or have you ever considered? These aren't mere stylistic choices, they are deliberate invitations to active engagement, transforming your listening experience into a more profound and participatory event. The setting of the scene, in this light, becomes less about simply listing geographical features and more about painting an atmospheric portrait, an immersive canvas upon which the drama will unfold. We're not just describing a house, we're evoking its very spirit, its latent secrets, and the palpable atmosphere that permeates its walls and grounds. And when it comes to introducing our key players, the individuals who will populate this world and drive its narrative forward, our conversational approach ensures that each character steps onto the stage not as a mere name, but as a distinct personality. This creates a fascinating microcosm of human society, a pressure cooker where these individual psychologies are forced to interact, to adapt, to clash, and sometimes, tragically, to unravel. We, as listeners, are instinctively drawn to observing these interpersonal dynamics because they mirror our own experiences in social settings. We recognize the subtle power plays, the unspoken rivalries, the fragile alliances. Each guest, therefore, serves not only as a potential suspect or victim but also as a psychological foil, illuminating different facets of human nature and contributing to the intricate web of motivations that underpins any good mystery. This psychological complexity is what elevates a simple plot into a compelling exploration of the human condition. Now, for a practical application step for you, our discerning listener, as you encounter characters in any narrative, but particularly in a mystery. When a host is introduced, especially one described with any hint of eccentricity, pause and consider, what might be their underlying motivations for assembling this specific group of individuals? Are they seeking amusement? Validation? Do they have a hidden agenda, perhaps hoping to provoke a certain outcome or to observe a particular interaction? Furthermore, as each guest is subsequently introduced, don't merely accept their superficial description. Instead, begin to mentally sketch their psychological profile. Ask yourself, what is their apparent personality? Do they seem comfortable in this environment, or out of place? What might their relationship be with the host, or with other guests? Authors are incredibly deliberate in their character introductions within mysteries. Every descriptive detail, every line of dialogue attributed to a new character, is a potential clue, a breadcrumb leading towards their true nature, their role in the unfolding drama, or even their hidden capacity for deceit or violence. By actively engaging with these introductions, by thinking critically about the why behind each character's presence, you transform yourself from a passive observer into an active participant, a true amateur detective, sharpening your powers of deduction from the very outset. Let us now shift our focus to our second pivotal point, which serves as a potent undercurrent throughout this introductory phase, highlighting the stark contrast between the beautiful country estate itself and the looming tragedy that, like an unseen predator, waits in the wings. Ah, the idyllic facade. Isn't it a classic, almost archetypal setup in the annals of mystery fiction? The setting itself, in these tales, often assumes a character of its own, a silent, watchful entity, its beauty and tranquility serving as a deceptive veneer behind which darkness stirs. The Red House, from our initial glimpses, is intended to be precisely such a place, a picturesque embodiment of English country charm, perhaps even aristocratic grandeur, nestled amidst verdant landscapes. We conjure images of manicured lawns stretching out like emerald carpets, ancient trees providing dappled shade, vibrant rose gardens exuding their sweet perfume, and the distant, soothing sounds of rural life, all bathed in the gentle glow of what appears to be an unending, perfect summer's day. This, dear listener, is the before picture, the carefully constructed illusion of peace, prosperity, and unblemished harmony. It is a world seemingly untouched by the harsh realities that often plague mankind, a veritable sanctuary. To fully appreciate the narrative power of this juxtaposition, let's consider a classic literary example. Think of the opening scenes of Brideshead Revisited by Evelyn Waugh, or indeed, the early episodes of Downton Abbey. In these narratives, the country estate is presented not merely as a location, but as a symbol of a particular way of life, of tradition, of beauty, and of a certain sense of impregnable order. The camera or the author's pen lovingly lingers on the architectural details, the sprawling gardens, the exquisite interiors. This careful observation and psychological engagement bring us to our third and final pivotal point for this introductory chapter, the crucial act of foreshadowing the arrival of Mark Ablett's estranged, and by all accounts, trouble-making brother, Robert. Ah, Robert. The name itself, when first whispered or alluded to, carries a certain weight, doesn't it? He is the quintessential absent presence, a character who casts a long, often chilling, shadow over the proceedings even before he has physically stepped foot onto the stage. His impending arrival is not merely an item on a guest list, it is a disruptive force, a dark cloud gathering on an otherwise serene horizon, a subtle tremor preceding a much larger, and potentially devastating, earthquake. He is, by reputation, the embodiment of trouble-making, and his very existence, his very history, is destined to inject a potent dose of tension and unease into the otherwise polite and controlled atmosphere of the Red House. We can almost imagine the subtle shifts in conversation, the discreet tightening of smiles, the quick, knowing glances exchanged among the other guests at the mere mention of his name. He is the proverbial elephant in the meticulously decorated drawing room, even when he's still miles away. His influence, his reputation, precedes him, making him a character of significant impact long before we ever meet him face to face. To appreciate the narrative power of an absent but deeply influential character like Robert, let's once again draw upon a powerful real-world storytelling example. Consider the character of Mrs. Danvers in Daphne du Maurier's masterpiece, Rebecca. Even before Mrs. Danvers is physically introduced, her presence is established through the new Mrs. de Winter's anxieties, the staff's reverence for her, and the palpable atmosphere of dread she creates. She is a figure of formidable psychological impact, her reputation and her loyalty to the deceased Rebecca dominating the house and its new mistress. While Robert Ablett's role is different, the technique is similar. The narrative builds an aura around him, painting him as a disruptive force, a source of past and future conflict, through the reactions and veiled comments of others. He is not merely a name, he is a loaded concept, a harbinger of unresolved issues and potential catastrophe. We dread his arrival because we are told, subtly but insistently, that he brings chaos with him. The fact that he is estranged from Mark only amplifies the sense of impending drama, suggesting a deeper, more personal, and potentially more dangerous conflict. From a profound psychological perspective, why does the foreshadowing of such a trouble-making character, particularly an estranged sibling, resonate so powerfully with us as human beings and as listeners of narrative? It taps into a very deep-seated anxiety we all harbor about unresolved conflicts, about the disruption of equilibrium, and, most acutely, about the potential for betrayal or malice emanating from within one's own family, one's own kin. An estranged brother isn't simply an outsider or a stranger, he is an insider who has been cast out, a familiar figure whose intimacy has been twisted into something unpredictable, potentially hostile. This inherent duality, the intimate knowledge coupled with the animosity, is psychologically potent and inherently terrifying. We understand, almost instinctively, the complex, often fraught, dynamics of sibling relationships, the intricate mixture of love and resentment, the intense rivalry, the deep-seated loyalties, the shared history that can either bind or bitterly divide. Robert's anticipated arrival, therefore, doesn't merely signify the entrance of a new character, it carries the immense weight of family history, of unspoken grievances, of long-simmering resentments, and the undeniable potential for deep-seated animosities to violently resurface. It's not just a person arriving, it's a storm of unresolved emotions and past traumas about to violently break upon the tranquil shores of the Red House. We've considered the delicate balance of their individual psychologies and how their interactions will inevitably fuel the unfolding drama. Furthermore, we've savored the stark, almost poetic, contrast between the undeniable beauty and apparent tranquility of the country estate and the insidious, creeping sense of an impending tragedy, a discordant note in an otherwise perfect symphony. And finally, we have carefully, almost subtly, laid the groundwork for the arrival of Robert Ablett, the estranged, trouble-making brother whose very existence and looming presence are destined to ignite the powder keg of this idyllic facade. Everything, you see, is now delicately poised. The pieces are on the board, the stage is set, and the tension is subtly beginning to mount, like the barely perceptible hum before a storm. The idyllic facade, though beautiful and compelling, is inherently fragile, awaiting the inevitable crack that will reveal the darkness beneath. We have woven the threads of character, setting, and foreshadowing into a rich tapestry, inviting you to observe closely, to ponder deeply, and to prepare your senses for what is to come. In our next chapter, dear listener, we shall move beyond these initial observations. The curtain will truly rise, and the polite social interactions will begin to take on new, perhaps more sinister, meanings. The stage will be fully illuminated, the characters will begin their fateful dance, and the first true echoes of the mystery will begin to resonate through the seemingly tranquil halls of the Red House. Prepare yourself, for the charm and wit of this introduction will soon give way to the irresistible pull of suspicion, intrigue, and the relentless pursuit of truth. Our journey, rich with detail and psychological nuance, truly begins now. Main chapters, the investigation unfolds. The Red House Mystery, Chapter 3, the investigation unfolds. Chapters 1 to 21. Welcome, dear listener, to the very heart of our literary journey into A. Milne's masterfully crafted The Red House Mystery. In this pivotal chapter of our audiobook, we embark upon a comprehensive, immersive exploration of the core narrative, the unfolding investigation itself, spanning the crucial first 21 chapters of the novel. This is where the initial baffling crime is presented, where the seeds of doubt are sown, where the ingenious clues are gradually unearthed, and where our amateur detectives, Anthony Gillingham and Bill Beverly, begin their fascinating work. Our objective here is not merely to recount the events, but to meticulously guide you through the intricate processes of clue gathering, the shocking revelation of secret passages, and the compelling progression of amateur sleuthing that defines this Golden Age classic. We will maintain a brisk, yet deeply insightful, pace, inviting you to fully engage your own powers of observation and deduction, to become, in essence, a co-investigator alongside Anthony, as we navigate the corridors of the Red House and the labyrinthine complexities of human deception. Milne, renowned for his whimsical charm and profound understanding of human nature from his beloved children's literature, brings a distinct warmth and intellectual playfulness to the detective genre. The Red House Mystery stands as a testament to the era's fascination with puzzles, intellect, and the triumph of logical reasoning over the most cunning forms of villainy. It is a story that doesn't just present a mystery to be solved, it invites us into a meticulously constructed world where every detail potentially holds a key, where every character harbors secrets, and where the most obvious explanation is often the most misleading. As we journey through these 21 chapters, consider the subtle artistry at play. How does Milne plant his clues? How does he misdirect our attention without resorting to unfair tricks? How does he craft characters who feel both real and archetypal within the genre? This segment is designed to dissect these very questions, offering you not just a recap, but a deep analytical dive into the mechanics of a truly brilliant mystery. Are you prepared to scrutinize alibis, to explore hidden architectural features, and to challenge every assumption you might initially form? Let us peel back the layers of this fascinating narrative, understanding its psychological pull and its enduring appeal to generations of mystery enthusiasts. Let's begin our detailed exploration of the investigation's unfolding stages, observing how the puzzle gradually comes into focus. Chapters 1 to 7, The Genesis of the Puzzle, Discovery of the Locked Room and Antony's Partnership. The initial chapters of The Red House Mystery plunge us immediately into a world of genteel English country life, a carefully cultivated atmosphere of tradition and expectation, which Milne then expertly shatters with the introduction of chaos and crime. The setting is the Red House itself, an imposing and somewhat anachronistic dwelling, home to Mark Ablett, its somewhat peculiar and reclusive owner. Mark's household is a microcosm of classic character types. We meet Miss Agatha Amable, his efficient, seemingly unflappable secretary, a woman of meticulous habits and sharp observation, and Matthew, Mark's slightly flustered but generally well-meaning cousin, whose presence adds a touch of genial bumbling to the domestic scene. The ordinary rhythm of their lives is about to be irrevocably disrupted by the long-anticipated, yet deeply unsettling, return of Mark's brother, Robert Ablett, from Australia, after an absence of many years. The narrative hints at a strained, almost hostile, relationship between the brothers, sowing the first seeds of potential conflict and motive even before Robert sets foot in the house. The air is thick with anticipation, tinged with a palpable sense of foreboding. Then, the calm is violently shattered. A sudden, sharp gunshot. Crucially, they operate outside the strictures of official police procedure, granting them the freedom to observe, to question, and to theorize with a refreshing lack of bureaucratic constraint. These first 7 chapters are therefore about much more than just the discovery of a body. They are about establishing the profound impossibility of the crime, introducing the full cast of potential players and suspects, and setting the stage for an unconventional investigation driven by personal curiosity rather than official mandate. The immediate focus rests heavily on the apparent facts: a sealed room, a deceased victim, and a vanished suspect. But even at this early stage, Antony, with his perceptive gaze, senses that the most obvious explanation might be far too simplistic, too neat, too conveniently tailored. He begins to scrutinize the minutest details, the precise position of the body, the curious placement of the pistol, the overall condition of the room, seeking those subtle discrepancies that will, much later, unravel the entire meticulously constructed deception. To consider a real-world storytelling example that perfectly mirrors this crucial initial phase, One immediately thinks of the opening scenes of Knives Out, Rian Johnson's acclaimed modern homage to classic detective stories. From the outset, we are plunged into the unsettling discovery of the wealthy mystery novelist, Harlan Thrombey, found dead in his study. The police are promptly on the scene, as are the various members of his dysfunctional and grasping family, each a potential suspect brimming with a plausible motive. Much like in the Red House mystery, the circumstances surrounding Harlan's death initially point towards suicide, a conclusion that would neatly close the case. However, the almost immediate introduction of the eccentric, brilliantly perceptive private detective, Benoit Blanc, signals to the audience that something far deeper, far more convoluted, is undoubtedly at play. The initial scenes in Knives Out are masterfully crafted to present a seemingly clear-cut, if tragic, scenario, only to subtly inject elements of profound doubt, suspicion, and carefully veiled secrets. This mirrors Milne's approach with The Locked Library and the convenient disappearance of Robert Ablett, which initially seems to offer a clear, albeit unsettling, solution. Both narratives expertly use the shocking impact of a sudden death to catapult the audience into an immediate, fervent quest for understanding, laying out the initial, often misleading, pieces of a complex human puzzle and challenging us to look beyond the surface. From a psychological perspective, this opening phase is not merely important, it is absolutely vital for captivating and retaining the listener's engagement. It immediately creates what psychologists refer to as cognitive disequilibrium. Our brains are inherently wired to seek order, coherence, and logical explanation in the narratives we consume and the world we inhabit. When confronted with an event that appears to defy logic, such as a murder in a hermetically sealed room, our cognitive system experiences a significant jolt. This disequilibrium is not unpleasant, rather, it generates intense curiosity, a powerful drive to understand, and an almost insatiable desire for resolution. We become intellectually invested because the narrative fundamentally challenges our established understanding of how reality operates. The introduction of Anthony Gillingham as an amateur detective also taps into a profound, almost primal, human desire for justice and truth, especially when official channels might appear slow, bureaucratic, or less perceptive. We vicariously identify with Antony's independent spirit, his unconventional approach, and his courageous willingness to question authority and conventional wisdom. His partnership with Bill, providing a delightful blend of earnestness, occasional comic relief, and serious intellectual sparring, offers a familiar buddy system dynamic, which is psychologically comforting. It mirrors how many This nuanced portrayal effectively expands the pool of potential suspects far beyond just the missing brother, introducing layers of complexity and suspicion amongst the seemingly innocuous household members. However, the most significant and utterly transformative development in these chapters, the revelation that fundamentally shifts the entire trajectory of the investigation, is the dramatic discovery of the secret passage. The initial locked room premise, which had appeared so impenetrable and baffling, is systematically and ingeniously dismantled. Antony, with his extraordinarily keen eye for architectural detail, perhaps noticing a faint draft where none should be, a subtle discoloration on a wall, an unusually placed piece of furniture, or an odd sound that reverberates strangely, coupled with his unwavering willingness to think entirely outside the conventional box, begins to challenge the very notion of an impossibility. His persistent probing, often met with initial skepticism or dismissive glances from those who prefer simpler explanations, eventually leads to the spectacular unearthing of a hidden door, a cleverly concealed panel, or an ingenious mechanical contrivance that allows for undetected access to the library from an unexpected direction. Alternatively, it might reveal a sophisticated mechanism by which the room could be securely locked from the outside while appearing to be locked from within. This revelation is nothing short of a game changer. It provides a rational, albeit cunningly hidden, explanation for how someone could have entered and exited the room completely undetected, thereby utterly overturning the initial, anchoring assumption that Robert Ablett was the sole possible perpetrator. The existence of a secret tunnel, or an equally ingenious architectural trick, instantaneously opens up a myriad of new possibilities, significantly complicates the pool of motives, and fundamentally forces all the investigators, and indeed, the astute listener, to meticulously re-evaluate every single piece of information gathered so far. This period of the novel is a fascinating and intricate dance between gathering empirical, tangible evidence and employing imaginative, deductive reasoning, where the physical layout and hidden mechanics of the house become just as critically important as the psychological profiles and overt statements of its inhabitants. It's about looking far beyond the obvious, relentlessly challenging the initial, comfortable impression, and ultimately finding the hidden levers and mechanisms that make the seemingly impossible, astonishingly possible. To provide a potent real-world storytelling example that vividly illustrates this crucial phase of unearthing hidden truths, one might consider the intricate layers of discovery in Dan Brown's global phenomenon, the Da Vinci Code. In this fast-paced thriller, the protagonists, Robert Langdon and Sophie Neveu, are thrust into a murder investigation where the initial crime scene is deliberately staged with cryptic symbols and carefully placed clues, all designed to point towards a specific, predetermined killer. However, as they relentlessly follow a complex trail of ancient symbols, decipher hidden messages, and uncover the existence of secret societies and covert organizations, they continually stumble upon new historical facts and concealed mechanisms, hidden archives, secret compartments, forgotten passages within ancient cathedrals, that fundamentally alter their understanding of the crime, its true purpose, and its real perpetrator. Each subsequent discovery, much like the revelation of the secret passage in the Red House mystery, doesn't merely add another piece to an accumulating puzzle, rather, it radically recontextualizes all the previous pieces of information, demanding a complete and often dizzying rethinking of what they thought they knew. The tension in the Da Vinci Code is masterfully built not just from the thrill of a relentless chase for the killer, but from the profound intellectual gratification of constant This is the moment where Anthony Gillingham's myriad scattered observations, his astute and often intuitive deductions, and the vast array of seemingly disparate pieces of information meticulously gathered over all the preceding chapters finally coalesce into a stunning, coherent, and utterly definitive solution. The tension, which has been steadily, almost imperceptibly, building throughout the narrative, now tightens into an almost unbearable knot as Anthony prepares to expose the absolute truth behind the ingenious deception. In these culminating chapters, Anthony's intellectual brilliance truly shines, reaching its zenith. He doesn't simply identify a perpetrator, he expertly unravels an entire, meticulously constructed and executed deception, a grand illusion designed to mislead every observer. The very core of his breathtaking revelation hinges on what can only be described as a masterclass in timeline trickery. Anthony embarks on a meticulous, almost forensic, reconstruction of the events of that fateful afternoon. He refuses to simply accept stated timings or assumed sequences of actions. Instead, he rigorously tests them against all available physical evidence, against the bounds of logical possibility, and crucially, against his profound understanding of human behavior under pressure. Anthony brilliantly realizes that the murderer didn't just commit a heinous crime, they ingeniously manipulated the perception of the crime's timing and, even more astonishingly, the very identity of the victim. Perhaps the person found dead wasn't who everyone initially thought they were at the precise moment of the murder, or the sound of the gunshot was cunningly orchestrated to create a false impression of when the event actually occurred relative to the known movements and alibis of other characters. He identifies subtle, almost imperceptible, inconsistencies not just in what people claim to have done, but crucially, in when they claim to have done it, or precisely what they claim to have seen or heard. These are the minute, yet ultimately fatal, cracks in the murderer's painstakingly painted facade of innocence and carefully constructed alibi. Anthony's method culminates in a classic drawing room assembly, a time-honored tradition and beloved trope in Golden Age detective fiction, which serves as the ultimate stage for the intellectual duel between detective and criminal. He gathers all the suspects and key players together, each radiating a palpable blend of nervous anticipation and simmering dread. Systematically, almost surgically, Anthony begins to dissect the crime. With each logical step, each piece of evidence meticulously laid out, he expertly dismantles another segment of the murderer's elaborate alibi and masterful misdirection. He reveals, with crystal clarity, precisely how the secret passage, the architectural anomaly discovered earlier, was not just a means of clandestine entry and exit, but an integral, indispensable component of the overarching deception, allowing for a carefully orchestrated sequence of events designed to utterly confuse and manipulate the timeline. The perceived identity of the victim, the apparent and baffling disappearance of Robert Ablett, the seemingly impenetrable locked room itself, all these elements, once viewed as separate mysteries, are revealed to have been meticulously crafted components of a single, brilliant, yet ultimately flawed, criminal scheme. The true identity of the murderer, when finally unmasked, is often someone least expected, someone whose demeanor, relationship with the victim, or apparent lack of motive seemed entirely beyond reproach. This shocking revelation provides the ultimate, deeply satisfying sense of closure, tying up every single loose end, explaining every previously baffling detail, and unequivocally confirming Antony's intellectual superiority and the profound triumph of reasoned deduction over the most cunning and intricate forms of deception. These final chapters are a genuine masterclass in exposition, where the seemingly impossible is not every seemingly minor detail introduced in the earlier chapters should find its rightful place in the final, comprehensive solution, proving that nothing was superfluous or arbitrary. This is the moment where the meticulous planning and ingenious foresight of the author truly comes to its brilliant fruition. Secondly, for listeners and aspiring armchair detectives, these chapters underscore the ultimate, transformative power of synthesizing information. It is insufficient merely to gather individual facts in isolation. The true, invaluable skill lies in brilliantly connecting them, in identifying subtle patterns, and, most crucially, in scrutinizing the relationships between various events and statements, rather than just the events themselves in isolation. Learn to actively look for inconsistencies not just in the events, but more importantly, in the sequence or timing of those events. Challenge the perceived chronology. Ask yourself, could this have happened differently, or at a slightly different time, to achieve a specific, deceptive effect? This teaches us to think beyond the immediate, obvious narrative presented and to actively consider and explore alternative chronologies and interpretations. Finally, it profoundly reinforces the invaluable virtues of patience, persistence, and intellectual rigor in any form of inquiry. Antony doesn't rush to premature judgment. Instead, he meticulously gathers, thoughtfully ponders, and rigorously reconstructs the sequence of events, proving unequivocally that the truth often yields its secrets only to the most dedicated, logical, and patient of minds. This phase is a powerful and enduring testament to the triumph of reason, a guiding principle not just in the captivating realm of detective fiction, but in the multifaceted complexities of life itself. In summary, our meticulously guided journey through chapters 1 to 21 of The Red House Mystery has been an utterly delightful and intellectually stimulating expedition into the very heart of classic detective fiction. We commenced with the profoundly baffling impossibility of a locked room murder, a quintessential challenge meticulously designed to instantly ignite our curiosity and deeply engage our intellect. We then witnessed the fascinating genesis of an unconventional yet remarkably effective investigative partnership between the sharp-wit Antony Gillingham and his earnest, loyal friend Bill Beverly, whose amateur enthusiasm and keen, fresh observations provided an invaluable perspective on the unfolding crime. Our exploration then transitioned into the methodical and rigorous phase of the investigation, where diligent police interviews, the careful sifting of alibis, and the groundbreaking, game-changing discovery of a secret passage slowly, but surely, peeled back the layers of deception, transforming the seemingly impossible into a complex puzzle with a hidden, yet ultimately rational, solution. Finally, we arrived at the thrilling and utterly satisfying climax, where Antony's brilliant deduction exposed an elaborate and cunning timeline trickery, meticulously revealing the true murderer and their ingenious, albeit ultimately flawed, criminal plan. This deep and comprehensive dive into Milne's intricate plot not only showcases his masterful construction of a compelling and enduring mystery but also illuminates the timeless psychological principles that render detective fiction so endlessly captivating and universally appealing. We have explored, in great detail, how such narratives expertly create cognitive dissonance, powerfully satisfy our inherent craving for resolution, cleverly challenge our preconceived biases, and ultimately deliver the profound, exhilarating satisfaction of intellectual triumph. From the initial, jarring shock of discovery to the triumphant, clarifying moment of revelation, the Red House mystery stands as an exemplary model of how careful plotting, insightful characterization, and a touch of unique literary flair can combine to create an enduring and beloved classic that continues to charm. As we transition into chapters 8 through 14, the tension builds considerably. The initial shock gives way to a more methodical, albeit still amateur, investigation. The arrival of the official police brings a layer of conventional scrutiny, but it also serves to highlight Antony's unique approach. While the police focus on established procedures and traditional lines of inquiry, Antony and Bill operate with a freedom that allows them to explore tangents and unconventional theories. These chapters delve deeply into the psychological aspects of the crime. Police interviews become crucial, not just for eliciting facts, but for revealing character. Each alibi is meticulously examined, not just for its veracity, but for the personality it exposes. We learn who is forthright, who is evasive, who is genuinely confused, and who might be deliberately misleading. Milne masterfully uses these interrogations to layer the narrative with ambiguity, making us question everyone's motives and reliability. The turning point in this segment, and indeed for the entire mystery, is the astonishing discovery of the secret tunnel. This isn't just a convenient plot device, it's a game changer. The tunnel, connecting Mark's study to the outside world, appears to instantly solve the locked room paradox. The murderer, it would seem, simply escaped through this hidden passage. However, Milne, ever the trickster, understands that an easy answer often masks a deeper deception. The tunnel's existence immediately complicates matters, transforming the initial impossibility into a new set of questions. If the tunnel was the escape route, why the elaborate locking of the door? What does this reveal about the killer's cunning, or perhaps their desire to create a misleading impression? Antony and Bill must now reassess everything, moving beyond the simple how to a more complex why. The discovery of the tunnel allows Milne to explore the architectural secrets of the Red House itself, making the house almost a character in its own right, a silent witness to its own dark history. The very walls seem to hold secrets, adding another layer of intrigue to the unfolding drama. It's here that Antony truly begins to shine, dissecting the implications of the tunnel, not just as a physical pathway, but as a psychological component of the killer's plan. He considers the timing of its discovery, the knowledge of its existence, and how it might fit into a larger, more intricate scheme. The amateur sleuths now face a paradox within a paradox, pushing them to think even further outside the conventional box. Finally, in chapters 15 through 21, the narrative hurtles towards its thrilling climax. Antony, armed with a deeper understanding of the house and its inhabitants, begins to piece together the disparate fragments of information. This isn't a sudden flash of insight, but a gradual, deliberate assembly of clues, much like solving a complex jigsaw puzzle. His focus shifts from merely identifying the escape route to understanding the true nature of the crime, a realization that the killer's genius lay not just in their method, but in their manipulation of perception, particularly concerning time. The concept of timeline trickery is the absolute linchpin of Milne's solution, a stroke of genius that elevates the Red House mystery beyond a mere locked room puzzle. Antony's brilliance lies in recognizing that the impossible aspect of the crime wasn't about the physical impossibility of entry or exit, but about the temporal impossibility. The killer didn't just escape unseen, they made it appear as if the murder occurred at a time when it genuinely couldn't have, or at least, when the most obvious suspect would have an ironclad alibi. This twist on the traditional locked room is truly inspired. Antony meticulously reconstructs the sequence of events, aligning alibis, witness statements, and physical evidence against the true, hidden chronology of the crime. He discerns the moments of subtle misdirection, the seemingly insignificant actions that, when viewed through Th. 7-day action plan, cultivate your inner sleuth. Welcome, dear listeners, back to our journey into the fascinating world of the Red House mystery and the sharp mind of Antony Gillingham. As we close the cover on Alan and Antony's thrilling adventure, you might find yourself wishing you possessed a similar knack for observation, a comparable talent for connecting the seemingly disparate threads of evidence into a coherent tapestry of truth. Well, I have wonderful news for you. This chapter isn't just about admiring Antony's methods, it's about making them your own, about cultivating that inner sleuth that I believe resides within each and every one of us. Our mission for this chapter is to provide you with a fun, engaging, and eminently practical post-book activity that directly connects you, the listener, to Antony's ingenious methods of deduction. We're going to bridge the gap between the pages of fiction and the vibrant, clue-filled reality of your everyday life. This isn't a dry academic exercise, nor is it a complex psychological test. Think of it more as a playful exploration, a week-long expedition into the intricacies of human behavior and the subtle whispers of your environment, all viewed through the lens of a budding detective. Antony Gillingham, after all, wasn't just a clever man, he was an intensely curious one, always looking, always listening, always piecing together the fragments of the world around him. And that, my friends, is precisely what we're going to encourage you to do. Why undertake such an endeavor, you might ask? Because the art of deduction, at its heart, is the art of mindful living. It's about paying attention, truly paying attention, to the world as it unfolds. It's about sharpening your senses, refining your critical thinking, and developing an intuitive understanding of patterns and deviations. Antony's brilliance didn't stem from some innate, magical ability, it grew from disciplined observation, from a meticulous consideration of every detail, no matter how trivial it might initially seem. He understood that the biggest revelations often hide in the smallest particulars. By engaging in these activities, you're not just mimicking a fictional detective, you're enhancing your own perception, fostering a deeper connection to your surroundings, and perhaps even uncovering layers of reality you previously overlooked. Imagine walking through your day, no longer merely passing through it, but actively engaging with it, seeing it as a rich tableau of potential clues and fascinating insights. Doesn't that sound like a more vibrant way to experience the world? We've designed a simple yet profound 7-day action plan, broken down into 3 distinct modules, each building upon the last, progressively honing your observational and deductive faculties. Each module will challenge you to step outside your usual mode of interaction with the world and embrace a more analytical, more inquisitive stance. We'll delve into each of these challenges in great detail, offering real-world examples to inspire you, psychological insights to deepen your understanding, and practical, actionable steps to guide you every step of the way. So, are you ready to embark on your own personal journey of discovery, to truly cultivate that inner sleuth? Excellent. Let's begin. Our first challenge, spanning days 1 and 2 of your action plan, is designed to sharpen your visual acuity and your ability to infer. It's titled, Observe a Crowded Room and Deduce One Fact About a Stranger Without Speaking. This might sound daunting, even a little intrusive, but the key here is ethical, respectful, and unobtrusive observation. We're not encouraging staring or judgment, but rather a keen, almost artistic appreciation of the human story unfolding around you. Think of it as people watching elevated to an art form, a subtle dance of inference and hypothesis. Let me paint a picture for you, a real-world storytelling example to illustrate the power of this exercise. Imagine yourself in a bustling city coffee shop, the kind with soft jazz playing and the aroma of roasted beans filling the air. You settle into a quiet corner, perhaps with a book or a notepad, making yourself appear busy, yet your true mission is to observe. Across the room, tucked away at a small table, sits a man in his late 40s or early 50s. He's wearing a slightly rumpled linen shirt, a bit too warm for the mild autumn day, and dark trousers. Nothing immediately striking, right? But you're an aspiring sleuth now, so you start to zoom in. First, you notice his hands. They're strong, calloused, with faint traces of what looks like dried paint or putty under his fingernails. His right thumb has a small, faded scar. He holds his coffee mug firmly, almost possessively. Next, your gaze drifts to his shoes, worn, comfortable-looking leather loafers, scuffed at the toes, but clean. They've seen some miles, certainly, but are cared for. His phone, lying face down on the table next to a half-eaten pastry, is an older model, its screen protector slightly bubbled at the edge, indicating it's been dropped a time or two. He occasionally glances at it, but doesn't pick it up. He sips his coffee slowly, contemplatively, sometimes rubbing his thumb over the rim of the mug. He's alone, but doesn't appear lonely, rather, there's an air of quiet self-sufficiency about him. You start to form hypotheses. The hands, manual labor, certainly. The traces of paint or putty suggest a trade. Carpenter, painter, sculptor. The scar could be from an accidental cut during work. The worn shoes, someone who spends a lot of time on their feet. The older phone, the unhurried demeanor, perhaps not someone obsessed with the latest tech or frantic schedules. He's not dressed in business attire, this isn't a quick lunch break from an office job. He seems comfortable in his own company, not waiting for anyone. You connect the dots. The strong, paint-stained hands, the practical but well-maintained clothing, the quiet contemplation, the comfortable, well-worn shoes. Could he be an artisan? A craftsman? Perhaps a painter or sculptor who works with his hands, someone who values durability over fleeting trends, someone whose life allows for moments of quiet reflection in the middle of a workday. You deduce, with a reasonable degree of confidence, that this man works with his hands, likely in a creative or skilled trade that involves tactile work, and so, how do you practically apply this over days 1 and 2? Here are your steps. 1. Choose your observation post. Select a public space where you can comfortably and unobtrusively observe. This could be a coffee shop, a park bench, an airport lounge, a library reading room, or even a waiting area. The key is to be a silent observer, not an active participant. 2. Set your intention. Before you begin, remind yourself of the goal, to deduce one verifiable in theory fact about a stranger without interaction. This isn't about solving a grand mystery, but about honing your deductive muscles on a small, manageable scale. 3. Select your subject ethically, without staring. Allow your gaze to gently settle on a person who seems interesting. Avoid anyone who appears distressed or vulnerable, as the goal is respectful observation, not exploitation. Try to pick someone who is somewhat settled and unlikely to move immediately. 4. Begin your visual scan, the head-to-toe method. Start with the overall impression, posture, gait if they move, general demeanor. Are they tense or relaxed? Energetic or lethargic? Move to their head and face, hairstyle and condition, any facial hair, skin quality, glasses clean/smudged, fashion/prescription. Be very subtle with this. Observe their hands. Are they clean, dirty, well manicured, calloused? Any rings, watches, or specific accessories? How do they hold objects? Examine their clothing, fabric, style, cleanliness, level of wear and tear, any specific logos or patterns. Do they dress for comfort, fashion, or utility? Does their clothing fit the weather or the environment? Look at their accessories, bags, backpacks, jewelry, headphones, books, digital devices. What kind of bag? Is it new or old? What kind of book are they reading? What brand of phone or laptop are they using? Are there stickers on their laptop? Focus on their footwear. Shoes can tell a surprising story. Sneakers, boots, sandals, dress shoes. Are they new, worn, muddy, polished? Do they look practical or fashionable? 5. Formulate hypotheses. As you gather these details, start to weave them together. These well-worn walking boots and a large, technical backpack suggest an outdoor enthusiast or perhaps a traveler. The immaculate, tailored suit, expensive watch, and pristine leather briefcase point towards a professional in a corporate setting. The paint-splattered jeans and old t-shirt, coupled with an artistic sketchbook, might indicate an art student or a working artist. 6. Refine and deduce. Test your hypotheses against all your observations. If you think outdoors enthusiast, do their hands look soft or rugged? Do they have a healthy, sun-kissed complexion or are they pale? Do they seem restless or calm? Look for corroborating evidence, and be ready to discard hypotheses that don't fit. Your goal is to deduce one solid, plausible fact. It doesn't have to be earth-shattering. It could be as simple as this person is a student, this person likely works in a creative field, or this person is traveling a long distance. 7. Resist interaction. The critical rule is no speaking. No trying to confirm your deduction. The learning comes from the process of observation and inference, not from the validation. 8. Reflect and journal. Afterwards, take a few minutes to jot down your observations, your hypotheses, your final deduction, and most importantly, how you arrived at it. What clues were most compelling? What did you initially miss? This reflection is where the true learning solidifies, helping you to internalize Antony's systematic approach. Remember, this is about honing your senses, not about being intrusive or judgmental. It's about seeing the world with fresh eyes, recognizing that everyone carries a story, and often, they tell parts of it through the silent language of their presence and possessions. Practice this on day 1 and again on day 2, perhaps choosing a different location or a different type of person each time. You'll be amazed at how quickly your powers of observation sharpen. Now, let's move on to days 3 and 4. Thirdly, it improves empathy by encouraging you to understand underlying motivations. When you notice an omission, your mind naturally starts to wonder why. Is the person protecting someone? Are they ashamed? Are they afraid of judgment? Are they simply trying to maintain a positive image? This act of questioning why from the speaker's perspective fosters empathy, allowing you to consider the complex interplay of emotions, intentions, and social dynamics that shape communication. It moves you beyond simply hearing words to truly understanding the person behind them. Fourth, it sharpens critical listening skills, moving beyond superficial understanding. Most of us are passive listeners. We hear words, we process them for their surface meaning, and we formulate our responses. Active listening, especially when attuned to omissions, demands a far deeper engagement. It requires you to consider context, tone, body language. Remember our previous exercise, and the speaker's known history. It's about discerning patterns, recognizing inconsistencies, and identifying gaps, transforming you from a mere recipient of information into an astute interpreter of meaning. This skill is invaluable, not just for detective work, but for every aspect of your personal and professional life. Finally, it connects to defense mechanisms such as omission, deflection, and minimization. Psychologically, people often employ these tactics, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously, to cope with stress, guilt, embarrassment, or conflict. By recognizing these patterns of omission, you begin to understand the common ways in which individuals protect their inner world. When someone consistently omits a key detail, it can be a subtle form of deflection, steering the conversation away from an uncomfortable truth. When they minimize the importance of an event or a person, it might indicate an attempt to downplay their own role or impact. Becoming attuned to these subconscious strategies provides a fascinating window into the human condition and is a skill that Anthony Gillingham used to great effect when interviewing suspects or witnesses. So, how do you practically apply this over days 3 and 4? Here are your steps for cultivating this unique form of active listening. 1. Choose your arena. This exercise works best in natural, ongoing conversations. This could be a family dinner, a chat with colleagues during a break, a social gathering with friends, or even listening to an interview on a podcast or television program. The key is to be an observer, not to lead the conversation towards your goal. Avoid setting up a conversation specifically for this purpose, as that would feel artificial and potentially manipulative. 2. Set your intention. Before you engage in or listen to a conversation, consciously set the intention to notice what isn't being said. This primes your mind to be more attuned to gaps and silences. 3. Listen beyond the words. As the conversation progresses, don't just process the explicit content. Pay attention to the negative space of the dialogue. Notice sudden topic changes. Does the speaker abruptly shift subjects when a certain name, event, or issue arises? This is a strong indicator of an omission. Look for vague language. Do they use imprecise terms like "some stuff happened," "things got a bit complicated," or "we just decided to move on" instead of concrete details, especially when discussing a potentially sensitive area? Identify emotional shifts. Does their tone of voice change? Do they become quieter, more agitated, or suddenly very cheerful when certain topics come up, and then quickly move past them? These emotional cues can signal an underlying reluctance to delve deeper. Spot inconsistencies or missing links. Does the narrative feel incomplete? Are there logical jumps, or does a particular person or event that should clearly be part of the story seem to be entirely absent? For instance, if someone is recounting a trip but never mentions how they traveled or where they stayed, those could be deliberate omissions if there's AR. Now, you formulate multiple hypotheses. Hypothesis A: a human, a secret overnight guest, a forgetful past self ate the beans. Hypothesis B: a pet, if you had one, like a cat or dog, got into them. Hypothesis C: a wild animal, mouse, rat, squirrel, accessed them. Hypothesis D: the bag was never full to begin with, and you misremembered. Always consider misperception. Finally, you systematically eliminate hypotheses based on your physical evidence. Hypothesis: a human, unlikely, given the small tear in the bag, the coffee dust trail, and especially the mouse droppings. A human wouldn't leave such traces. You live alone, and there's no sign of forced entry or unusual activity. Eliminated. Hypothesis B: pet, you don't own a pet. Eliminated. Hypothesis D: misremembered. While possible, the distinct tear, the trail, and the droppings point to an active incident, making misremembering less probable as the sole explanation. Unlikely, but acknowledged. That leaves hypothesis C: wild animal, specifically a mouse, given the size of the droppings and the hole. This hypothesis aligns perfectly with all the physical evidence: the small tear, the coffee dust trail, the mouse droppings, and the tiny hole in the skirting board, providing an entry point. You've deduced the culprit: a resourceful mouse with a penchant for artisanal coffee beans. You haven't seen the mouse, you haven't laid a trap, but through pure deduction and physical evidence, you've solved the mystery. The next step, of course, would be pest control, but the intellectual victory is yours. Let's dissect the psychological analysis of why solving these minor household anomalies is so beneficial for cultivating your inner sleuth. Firstly, it applies the scientific method to everyday life. Detective work, at its core, is a form of applied science. You identify a problem, gather data evidence, form hypotheses, test them against the data, and draw conclusions. This exercise teaches you to approach problems systematically, replacing guesswork or emotional reactions with logical inquiry. It moves you from passive observation to active investigation. Secondly, it reinforces critical thinking and problem-solving skills. When confronted with an anomaly, it's easy to jump to the most obvious or emotionally charged conclusion. This exercise compels you to pause, to analyze, to question, and to consider multiple possibilities before settling on an answer. It hones your ability to break down a complex problem into smaller, manageable parts, much like Antony would dissect a tangled web of motives and alibis. It teaches you to think critically about causality, what could have caused this effect, and what evidence supports or refutes that cause. Thirdly, it develops hypothesis testing skills. This is a crucial aspect of deduction. It's not enough to simply have an idea, you must be able to test that idea against empirical evidence. In our coffee bean example, the human ate them hypothesis was quickly disproven by the size of the tear and the mouse droppings. This iterative process of proposing, testing, and refining hypotheses is fundamental to any form of inquiry, from scientific research to criminal investigation. It trains your mind to be flexible, to not get too attached to an initial theory, and to let the evidence guide your conclusions. Fourthly, it enhances attention to detail in one's own environment. How often do we truly see our homes? We navigate them largely on autopilot, missing the subtle shifts, the displaced items, the tiny marks that tell stories. This exercise forces you to slow down and meticulously inspect your surroundings, transforming familiar spaces into potential crime scenes of the minor, amusing kind. You start to notice the scuff on the floor that wasn't there yesterday, the slightly ajar drawer, the faint smell that wasn't present before. This heightened awareness not only makes you a better detective but also deepens your connection to your personal space. Finally, it actively combats cognitive biases like confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is our natural tend. What was the most challenging part? What did you learn about your own observational habits? How did the evidence guide you? Were you surprised by the answer? By engaging in this final challenge, you're not just playing a game, you're actively integrating the core tenets of Anthony Gillingham's deductive genius into your daily life. You're learning to see your world as a source of endless puzzles, to approach problems with a calm, analytical mind, and to trust the subtle whispers of physical evidence over mere assumptions. This practice will not only make you a better detective in your own home but will also enhance your ability to think critically and solve problems in every facet of your existence. So there you have it, our 7-day action plan. Days 1 and 2, honing your visual observation in a crowded room. Days 3 and 4, refining your auditory skills by noticing what people omit in conversation. And finally, days 5 through 7, putting it all together to solve a minor household anomaly with pure deduction and physical evidence. This journey, dear listener, is not merely about mimicking a fictional character, it is about unlocking and cultivating your own latent abilities. Anthony Gillingham's brilliance lay not in supernatural powers, but in a disciplined approach to observation, an insatiable curiosity, and an unwavering commitment to logical inference. These are qualities that you, too, can foster. By dedicating just a small portion of your week to these engaging exercises, you will find your perception sharpening, your critical thinking skills flourishing, and your appreciation for the intricate tapestry of the world around you deepening exponentially. You might start to notice the subtle changes in a friend's demeanor that indicate an unspoken concern, or the tiny, almost imperceptible detail in a newspaper article that hints at a larger truth. Your everyday environment will transform from a backdrop into a living, breathing landscape of clues and narratives, waiting to be discovered. This is the true legacy of the Red House mystery, the invitation to become a more engaged, more discerning participant in your own life's unfolding story. Don't feel pressured to get everything right on your first try. The value is in the attempt, in the consistent effort to observe, to hypothesize, and to deduce. Like any skill, it improves with practice. Continue these exercises beyond the initial 7 days, adapting them to new situations and challenges, and you'll find that your inner sleuth grows ever more perceptive and astute. We hope this action plan provides a fulfilling and enlightening extension of your experience with the Red House mystery. It's our sincere belief that the best stories don't just entertain, they inspire us to see the world, and ourselves, in a new light. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of deduction and discovery. We encourage you to embrace this journey with enthusiasm, and we look forward to hearing about your own insights and deductions as you cultivate your inner Anthony Gillingham. Cultivate your inner Anthony Gillingham. This isn't just about appreciating a great story, it's about actively engaging with the world through the lens of a keen observer and a logical thinker, much like our charming amateur detective himself. To help you on this exciting journey, we've crafted a practical 7-day action plan, designed to transform abstract concepts of deduction into tangible, everyday skills. Think of it as your personal training regimen for the mind, an opportunity to truly embody the spirit of Gillingham's investigative prowess in your own life. Our overarching post-book activity, weaving through these 7 days, is to provide a fun, engaging way to connect you directly to Anthony's unique methods of deduction. We call it the curious case of the everyday anomaly. Instead of just reading about mysteries, you'll be actively seeking and attempting to solve them. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to identify one small, intriguing puzzle in your daily life each day, something that Your task over these 2 days is to pay close attention to conversations you are a part of, or even those you overhear in passing ethically, of course, no intentional eavesdropping on private conversations. Focus on what's left out, what's glossed over, or what topics are subtly avoided. For instance, consider a colleague discussing a recent team project. Do they meticulously detail their own contributions but become vague when discussing a challenging phase of the project, or the role of a particular team member? Perhaps a friend recounts a recent social gathering, enthusiastically describing most attendees but noticeably omitting any mention of one specific person who was known to be there. Or maybe a family member talks about their day, but glides past a particular time slot or an interaction with a certain individual. When you notice an omission, don't immediately jump to conclusions of guilt or secrecy. Instead, formulate a question: why might that detail have been left out? Is it because the person is uncomfortable, protecting someone, genuinely forgot, or perhaps doesn't consider it relevant. Sometimes an omission is simply an oversight. Other times, it's a deliberate act. Anthony Gillingham would often gently circle back to these unspoken areas, posing a question designed to elicit the missing information without directly accusing the speaker of withholding it. He understood that people often reveal more in their attempts to conceal. Practice identifying these conversational gaps. In your sleuth's journal, note down the context of the conversation, the specific omission, and your hypotheses about why that detail might have been left out. This sharpens your ability to listen critically and to read between the lines, much like Gillingham sifting through conflicting accounts to find the kernels of truth. Days 5 to 7. Solve a minor household anomaly using only logical deduction and physical evidence. Now, it's time to bring all your Gillingham-esque skills together to solve a miniature mystery within your own domain. This exercise directly mirrors how Anthony would meticulously examine a crime scene or piece together the sequence of events at the Red House from the smallest clues. Your crime scene is your home, and your mystery is any minor anomaly that presents itself. What constitutes a minor household anomaly? It could be anything from a misplaced set of keys that usually sit in a designated spot, to a mysterious stain appearing on a rug, a door that suddenly starts squeaking, a light bulb that inexplicably flickers at certain times, or even a remote control that has vanished from its usual perch. The key is that it's something puzzling, something that doesn't immediately have an obvious explanation, and something you can investigate firsthand. Here's your Gillingham-inspired approach. 1. Define the anomaly precisely. Don't just say my keys are gone. Specify, my car keys, which I last saw on the kitchen counter yesterday evening, are now missing from that exact spot, and are not in my usual key bowl. Precision matters. 2. Gather all physical evidence. This is where your days 1 to 2 observational skills come into play. Examine the immediate vicinity of where the anomaly occurred or where the missing item should be. Look for clues. Are there any disturbed surfaces? Dust wiped away, a slight scratch, a faint mark? Are other items around it shifted or out of place? Are there any unusual objects nearby? If it's a stain, what are its characteristics, color, texture, location, surrounding environment? If a sound, like a squeaky door, where precisely is the sound emanating from? What movements trigger it? 3. Formulate hypotheses. Brainstorm every possible explanation, no matter how outlandish it initially seems. Did you move the keys yourself subconsciously? Did a family member borrow them? Did a pet knock them off the counter? Could they have fallen into an unusual spot? For a stain, could something have spilled? Was something dragged across it? Was it a natural occurrence, like a watermark? 4. Test your hypothesis. Summary: a classic fair play mystery. Welcome, dear listener, to the final chapter of our journey through A. Milne's delightful and brilliantly constructed The Red House Mystery. As we draw our exploration to a close, our primary aim in this session is to meticulously wrap up the narrative experience, taking a moment to truly highlight the sheer brilliance of its intricate plot, the satisfying resolution that ties every thread together with elegant precision, and the enduring charm that makes this novel a true classic in the annals of detective fiction. Have you ever found yourself at the end of a truly compelling story, a story that held you captive from the very first page, and felt a profound sense of contentment, almost a feeling of intellectual gratitude for the journey you've just completed? That, precisely, is the sensation the Red House Mystery is designed to evoke. It is a work that perfectly embodies the spirit of the fair play mystery, a subgenre that prides itself on inviting the reader into a cerebral game, where all the essential clues are laid out, transparently and subtly, for anyone keen enough to observe and deduce. There are no deus ex machina solutions here, no sudden, inexplicable twists that feel unwarranted or unfair. Instead, Milne offers us a carefully constructed puzzle, meticulously crafted with an architect's precision, yet presented with the light touch of a poet. The brilliance of the plot, you see, isn't just in its ability to surprise us, but in its absolute internal logic once the surprising truth is revealed. It's the kind of resolution that makes you want to immediately flip back to the beginning, rereading with a new understanding, marveling at how cleverly you were guided down certain paths, how subtly the crucial details were presented, hidden in plain sight, masquerading as mere background noise. This isn't simply about finding out whodunit, it's about understanding Whodunit and Whodunit with such clarity that the entire edifice of the mystery collapses, leaving behind a perfectly sensible, albeit tragic, human story. The satisfaction stems from this intellectual unraveling, from seeing the seemingly impossible rendered entirely logical through the lens of careful observation and astute deduction. Milne, with his characteristic charm and understated wit, doesn't just tell a story, he orchestrates an experience, a delightful mental gymnastics routine that leaves us both entertained and intellectually stimulated. It is a testament to his skill that a narrative exploring such dark themes as murder and deceit can feel so engaging and, dare one say, almost cozy, without ever diminishing the gravity of the events. This balance is a hallmark of the classic era of detective fiction, and the Red House Mystery exemplifies it beautifully. Now, let us delve deeper into the specific elements that contribute to this profound sense of brilliance and satisfaction, beginning with the intricate mechanics of what initially appears to be an utterly impossible crime, the locked room illusion. Recap the clever mechanics of the locked room illusion. From the very moment the news reaches us, carried by the frantic Mr. Cayley and later confirmed by the unsettling discovery in the study, the Red House Mystery presents us with a classic, seemingly irrefutable impossibility. Mark Ablett, the amiable if somewhat eccentric master of the Red House, is found dead in his locked study. The room is secured from the inside, the key ostensibly in the lock on the interior side. A gunshot has been heard. The windows are either latched or, in the case of one, leading to an inaccessible roof, seemingly offering no escape. How, then, could a murderer have entered, committed the heinous act, and then vanished without a trace, leaving behind a securely sealed chamber? This is the quintessential locked room mystery setup, designed to immediately challenge our logical faculties and create an aura of baffling enigma. The initial assumption, heavily implied and carefully nurtured by the circumstances, points to suicide. But then, if it were suicide, how could the door have been locked from the inside after the shot? Or, if it was murder, how did the killer escape a room sealed from within? These are the questions that plague the police, perplex the household, and, most importantly, tantalize the reader. It is this foundational impossibility, this seeming defiance of physical laws, that forms the bedrock of our engagement. Anthony Gillingham, with his keen intellect and refreshing refusal to accept the obvious, begins to chip away at this facade of impossibility. He scrutinizes every detail, not just what is present, but what is absent. The missing pipe, the timing of the shot, the precise arrangement of furniture, the seemingly innocent telegram that summons Mark's estranged brother, Robert, from Australia. Each piece, initially seeming disparate or insignificant, is meticulously examined and re-examined. The true genius of Milne's solution, and what makes it such a satisfying fair play resolution, lies in its utterly elegant simplicity once revealed. The locked room was indeed locked. The impossibility, however, resided not in the mechanics of the room itself, but in the identity of the victim and the perpetrator. The man found dead was not Mark Ablett. It was Robert Ablett, Mark's brother, freshly arrived from Australia and bearing a striking resemblance. Mark Ablett himself, burdened by his brother's past embezzlement and the desire to give him a fresh start, had orchestrated Robert's return and their subsequent meeting. The fatal confrontation occurred, not as a planned murder, but as a tragic accident or perhaps a moment of desperation, where Robert, upon realizing the truth of Mark's intentions or perhaps in a moment of panic, shot Mark. Then, in a desperate attempt to escape justice and assume Mark's life, Robert feigned his own death. We fall prey to the availability heuristic, focusing on the most obvious or easily recalled explanations, suicide or an unexplained supernatural event, rather than considering more complex or counterintuitive possibilities. The author provides all the clues, but subtly directs our attention away from the crucial ones, or frames them in a way that encourages misinterpretation. The satisfaction, then, is not just in solving the puzzle, but in realizing how our own minds were cleverly manipulated, providing a valuable lesson in critical thinking. Thirdly, there's a profound sense of triumph and intellectual reward when the impossible is revealed to be possible. The aha moment triggers a rush of dopamine in the brain, creating a feeling of pleasure and accomplishment. It validates our intelligence and our ability to perceive beyond the surface. In a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable, a perfectly solved mystery provides a microcosm of order restored, a sense of justice, and the comforting reassurance that even the most baffling enigmas can be untangled with enough perseverance and astute observation. It's a cathartic experience, offering mental stimulation without real-world danger. So, how can we apply these insights in our own lives? What practical steps can we take, inspired by the deconstruction of the locked room illusion, to enhance our critical thinking and problem-solving skills? 1. Cultivate critical observation, not just looking. Anthony Gillingham doesn't just glance at the crime scene, he observes it with an almost scientific rigor. He notes the precise position of the body, the state of the room, the specific items present or, crucially, absent. The practical application here is to move beyond superficial scanning in any situation. Whether it's analyzing a complex report, troubleshooting a technical issue, or understanding a social dynamic, train yourself to scrutinize details. Ask, what exactly am I seeing? What isn't here that I might expect? What are the precise conditions? Differentiate between raw observation, example, the door is locked from the inside, and inference, therefore, it must be suicide. The former is factual, the latter is a conclusion that needs testing. 2. Challenge assumptions rigorously. This is perhaps the most fundamental lesson from any great locked room mystery. The initial assumption that the dead man must be Mark Ablett is the linchpin of the illusion. In real life, we constantly make assumptions about people's motivations, about the causes of events, about the capabilities of systems. Before you accept an initial premise, particularly one that feels too simple or too complicated, challenge it. Ask, what if this foundational assumption is wrong? What if the identity is mistaken? What if the obvious explanation is a red herring? This process of questioning what appears self-evident is vital for breaking through cognitive biases and uncovering deeper truths. 3. Embrace lateral thinking and what-if scenarios. When conventional logic seems to hit a wall, as it does with a locked room, it's time for lateral thinking. Instead of trying to force a linear solution, try to approach the problem from entirely different angles. Anthony does this by considering the roof, the window, the possibility of a Confederate, the true nature of the telegram. In your own problem solving, if you find yourself stuck, try brainstorming wildly different possibilities. Ask, what if the premise is inverted? What if the victim is actually the perpetrator? What if the solution involves something completely outside the immediate scope? This kind of expansive, nonlinear thinking can unlock breakthroughs that rigid logic might miss. It's about being open to unconventional solutions and not limiting your imagination. 4. Practice the art of deconstruction. A locked room mystery is a perfectly constructed illusion. To solve it, you must deconstruct it, taking apart each element to understand its function and how it contributes to the overall effect. Apply this to complex situations you face. Break. Similarly, consider Nick and Nora Charles from Dashiell Hammett's The Thin Man series, later immortalized in film. This married couple solves mysteries with cocktails, witty banter, and an undeniable chemistry that often eclipses the crime itself. Their relationship is central. The mystery often serves as a backdrop for their delightful interactions. Like Anthony and Bill, their light-hearted approach belies a sharp intelligence, and their dynamic proves that humor and warmth can coexist with serious investigative work. In both these examples, as in the Red House mystery, the relationships between the characters are not incidental, they are integral to the storytelling experience, providing depth, relatability, and a significant portion of the narrative's appeal. They demonstrate that the journey, shared with engaging companions, can be as important as the destination. Why, from a psychological standpoint, do we find these character dynamics so compelling and satisfying? What is it about the pairing of seemingly disparate personalities that resonates so deeply with the human experience? Firstly, it taps into the power of relatability and wish fulfillment. In Bill, we often see ourselves, perhaps not as brilliant as Anthony, but earnest, curious, and trying to keep up. This makes the genius of Anthony more accessible. Conversely, Anthony represents an aspirational ideal, the effortlessly intelligent, witty problem solver. This combination allows us to vicariously experience both the struggle and the triumph, making the narrative more immersive and engaging. We see the detective as someone we can connect with, not just an abstract brain. Secondly, these dynamics highlight the profound benefits of collaboration and diverse perspectives. Psychologically, we know that two heads are often better than one, especially when those heads approach problems from different angles. Anthony brings the piercing insight, Bill brings the practical, common-sense lens. This cognitive load sharing helps to avoid blind spots and challenges assumptions. It's a demonstration of social facilitation, where the presence and interaction with another individual can enhance performance and deepen understanding. The banter isn't just entertainment, it's a form of intellectual sparring that sharpens both participants. Thirdly, and perhaps most importantly, the development of genuine human connection and friendship adds significant emotional depth to the story. In a genre that can sometimes be perceived as purely intellectual or cold, characters like Anthony and Bill provide warmth, humor, and a reminder of the inherent human need for connection. Their bond makes us care not just about the solution to the mystery, but about them. It creates a sense of stakes beyond the mere resolution of the crime. This emotional resonance is what transforms a good puzzle into a truly memorable story, allowing us to invest in the characters' well-being and their shared journey. It's about more than just plot, it's about character arcs and relationships. Considering these insights, how can we practically apply the lessons from Anthony and Bill's dynamic to our own lives, particularly in fostering more effective teamwork, communication, and personal relationships? 1. Value diverse perspectives in collaboration. Just as Anthony and Bill bring different strengths to the investigation, recognize that in any team or relationship, varied viewpoints are invaluable. Actively seek out and listen to individuals who think differently from you, or who have different backgrounds and experiences. Bill's often simpler questions sometimes force Anthony to clarify or reconsider, leading to deeper insights. In your own work or personal projects, encourage open discussion where various ideas, even seemingly obvious ones, are voiced and considered. Avoid surrounding yourself with yes men. Seek out individuals who can challenge your assumptions constructively. To cultivate the art of active listening and thoughtful questioning, Bill, despite his occasional befuddlement, is an excellent listen. The family home, a symbol of stability and legacy, becomes a stage for betrayal and death. The theme of identity is also deeply intertwined with these secrets. Robert has lived under a false identity in Australia, and upon his return, attempts to shed his criminal past by literally trying to assume Mark's life. But a true identity, forged by actions and character, is not merely a costume that can be donned or shed at will. His past, his true self, inevitably catches up with him, leading to his ultimate exposure. The secrets don't just affect the perpetrator, they cast a pall over everyone connected, creating an atmosphere of suspicion, distrust, and unspoken grief. The Ablett family is, in essence, destroyed by the consequences of Robert's actions and Mark's ill-fated attempts to shield him. The legacy of the Red House, once a place of comfort, becomes forever tainted by hidden truths and the violence they ultimately engendered. To appreciate the profound impact of secrets in storytelling, let's look at real-world examples. Ancient Greek tragedies, such as Sophocles' Oedipus Rex, are perhaps the most potent illustrations of how hidden truths and past actions inevitably surface, leading to devastating consequences. Oedipus, unknowingly, commits patricide and incest, and despite his efforts to escape a prophesied fate, the truth of his origins relentlessly pursues him. The revelation of his secrets brings about not only his personal downfall but also widespread suffering for his family and his entire kingdom. These narratives powerfully demonstrate that ignoring or attempting to bury uncomfortable truths does not make them disappear, it merely delays their inevitable, and often more destructive, emergence. The idea of fate being intertwined with human choices, where a single past transgression can unravel an entire life, resonates deeply. In a more contemporary vein, consider historical cover UPS, like the Watergate scandal. What began as a relatively minor break-in escalated into a national crisis, not because of the original crime itself, but because of the extensive, systematic efforts to conceal it. The web of lies, the obstruction of justice, and the desperate attempts to maintain secrecy ultimately led to far greater consequences: the erosion of public trust, political upheaval, and the impeachment of a president, than the initial transgression might have entailed. These real-world events vividly demonstrate how the energy expended on maintaining a secret can become far more damaging than the truth itself, proving the maxim that the cover-up is worse than the crime. From a psychological perspective, Why do the consequences of hidden secrets resonate so deeply in stories and in our own lives? Firstly, secrets trigger cognitive dissonance. When an individual holds information that conflicts with their public persona or the perceived reality, it creates immense psychological discomfort. This dissonance often leads to further self-deception, rationalization, and the construction of elaborate internal narratives to justify the secrecy. The burden of carrying a secret is immense, often leading to anxiety, stress, and a constant fear of exposure. For characters like Robert, this internal conflict drives his desperate actions, making his trajectory both understandable and tragic. He's trapped in a labyrinth of his own making, desperately trying to reconcile his past with his desired future. Secondly, secrets tap into our understanding of the shadow self, a concept explored by Carl Jung. This refers to the unconscious aspects of our personality that we try to repress or hide from ourselves and others, often involving our undesirable traits, fears, or past wrongdoings. When these shadows are left unacknowledged, they can exert a powerful, unconscious influence on our behavior, leading to self-sabotage, destructive choices, and the kind of elaborate deception seen in Robert Ablett. The drama of a secret revealed is often the drama of the shadow self being brought into the light, forcing a confrontation with uncomfortab. We've delved deep into the brilliant mechanics of the locked room illusion, witnessing how Milne deftly crafts an impossible scenario only to unravel it with elegant, logical precision, playing upon our assumptions and challenging our powers of observation. We've celebrated the light-hearted yet sharply intelligent dynamic between Anthony Gillingham and Bill Beverly, a partnership that injects warmth, humor, and relatability into the heart of a murder investigation, demonstrating the power of collaborative intellect and genuine friendship. And finally, we've taken a moment for somber reflection on the devastating consequences of the Ablett family's hidden secrets, understanding how past transgressions and the desperate attempts to conceal them inevitably lead to tragedy, reminding us of the enduring weight of truth. The Red House mystery is more than just a whodunit, it's an invitation to a delightful intellectual game, a study in human nature, and a testament to the enduring appeal of a story well told. Milne's unique voice, often recognized for his whimsical children's tales, shines through in his ability to infuse even the darkest of narratives with a sense of charm and thoughtful introspection. He doesn't just present us with a puzzle, he presents us with a world populated by vivid characters, whose interactions and fates resonate long after the final page is turned. We hope that this detailed exploration has not only deepened your appreciation for the Red House mystery but has also equipped you with a sharper lens through which to view other works of detective fiction, and indeed, the complexities of the world around you. May it inspire you to reread Milne's classic with fresh eyes, noticing the subtle clues and appreciating the intricate construction with a newfound understanding. Perhaps it will even prompt you to apply some of these analytical and interpersonal insights to your own daily life, enhancing your problem-solving skills, enriching your collaborations, and encouraging a deeper reflection on the profound impact of truth and transparency. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Until our next literary adventure, keep your wits sharp, your observations keen, and your curiosity alive. The world, much like a good mystery, is always waiting to reveal its secrets to those patient and perceptive enough to uncover them. And speaking of secrets, let's take a moment to truly appreciate the exquisite architecture of A. Milne's The Red House mystery itself. The brilliance of its plot lies not just in its intricate design, but in its unwavering commitment to the principles of fair play mystery. Every clue, every misdirection, every subtle hint is meticulously placed within the narrative, right there for the astute reader to discover alongside Anthony Gillingham. What makes the resolution so deeply satisfying isn't merely the reveal of the culprit, but the profound sense that every loose thread has been expertly gathered and woven into a perfectly coherent tapestry. There's a delicious aha moment when the truth finally snaps into place, not because it's an improbable twist, but because it feels utterly inevitable in hindsight, a testament to Milne's genius in laying out the puzzle pieces so cleverly yet subtly. The solution doesn't come out of nowhere, it emerges organically from the details presented, rewarding careful observation and logical deduction. It's the kind of ending that compels you to reread the book immediately, just to marvel at how you missed the obvious and to admire the author's cunning once more. The resolution, in fact, is one of the most intellectually gratifying aspects of the entire novel. Milne doesn't rely on red herrings that lead nowhere, nor does he introduce vital information at the last moment. Instead, he presents a complete picture, albeit one shrouded in the fog of initial assumptions and natural human biases. The clarity that emerges by the final pages is a testament to the power of pure reason, guided by Antony's remarkable ability to strip away the emotional clutter and FO. Finally, let us reflect on the profound undercurrent that drives the entire tragedy at the Red House, the pervasive, corrosive power of hidden secrets within the Ablett family. The murder of Samuel Ablett isn't an isolated incident, it's the violent eruption of long-buried resentments, deceptions, and a desperate struggle to maintain appearances. Mark Ablett, the ostensibly charming and successful patriarch, is at the center of a tangled web of lies spanning decades. His actions, driven by a desire to protect his reputation and inheritance, had far-reaching and ultimately fatal consequences. The secrets he kept, the truth about his past, his identity, and his relationships, created a suffocating atmosphere of suspicion and distrust that permeated every corner of the Red House. This narrative powerfully illustrates how the concealment of truth, even with seemingly benign intentions, can slowly but surely poison relationships, distort realities, and eventually lead to catastrophic outcomes. The Ablett family's hidden secrets serve as a potent reminder of the weight we carry when we choose to live lives built on deception. The initial small deceptions, born out of convenience or a desperate need for social acceptance, festered over time, growing into monstrous burdens that ultimately demanded a terrible price. The fear of exposure, the constant need to uphold a facade, and the desperate measures taken to prevent the truth from surfacing, created a domino effect that culminates in murder. It's a stark commentary on the human tendency to prioritize perceived status and material wealth over honesty and genuine connection. The tragedy of the Red House mystery is not just in the death of Samuel Ablett, but in the slow decay of trust and the eventual unraveling of an entire family unit, all due to the persistent shadow of unconfessed truths. Milne, through this compelling narrative, subtly encourages us to consider the profound and often destructive impact of living with a lie, emphasizing the enduring value of integrity and the peace that comes with transparency. The Red House, therefore, becomes more than just a setting, it symbolizes the very soul of a family, stained and haunted by the secrets it could no longer contain. So, as we bring our discussion of the Red House mystery to a close, we hope you've gained not only a deeper appreciation for A. Milne's masterful storytelling but also fresh perspectives on the elements that make a mystery truly timeless. From the ingenious locked room puzzle to the vibrant partnership of Anthony and Bill, and the poignant exploration of family secrets, this novel offers layers of engagement that continue to captivate readers nearly a century after its publication. It stands as a shining example of the fair play tradition, a narrative where intellect is celebrated, logic prevails, and the human spirit, in all its complexity, is laid bare. Thank you once again for accompanying us on this captivating literary journey. We trust that the insights gleaned from the Red House's enigmatic halls will inspire you to look at the world around you with a sharper eye and a more discerning mind, ever ready to uncover the truths that lie just beneath the surface, much like a skilled detective solving the perfect crime. Call to action, CTA continue the mystery. Welcome back, dear listener, to a moment of reflection and anticipation, as we draw to a close the captivating journey through A. Milne's masterful The Red House Mystery. The final pages have turned, the last secrets unveiled, and I trust that your intellectual curiosity has been thoroughly satisfied, perhaps even pleasantly confounded at various turns. As the echoes of the redoubtable Anthony Gillingham's keen deductions and the charming Bill Beverley's earnest observations begin to fade, a new chapter opens before us, one that is not found within the pages of this particular tale, but rather within the vibrant, interactive world of audiobooks and the community that celebrates them. Our core purpose in this closing segment is not merely to say farewell, but to actively encourage your interaction and to foster a deeper, more profound engagement with this audiobook platform and indeed, with the entire universe of spoken word narratives. We believe that the journey of a story does not end when the final word is spoken by the narrator, rather, it transforms, evolving into an opportunity for shared experience, for contemplation, and for the discovery of new adventures. Think of it as the literary equivalent of a warm, inviting fireplace around which fellow enthusiasts gather after a long, exhilarating hike through a labyrinthine forest of plot twists and character developments. The adventure may be over, but the camaraderie and the shared reflection are just beginning. As you sit now, perhaps with a contented sigh, the intricate tapestry of the Red House mystery still fresh in your mind, you might find yourself pondering the cleverness of the clues, the red herrings so artfully laid, or perhaps the sheer audacity of the solution. This natural impulse to mentally retrace the steps of the investigation, to replay certain scenes in your mind, is precisely what we wish to tap into and transform into a meaningful interaction. It is the very essence of human connection through storytelling. We have, together, embarked on an intellectual escapade, an intriguing puzzle that has stimulated your mind and perhaps even provoked a few gasps of surprise. Now, as the dust settles and the truth stands revealed, don't you find yourself wanting to discuss it, to compare notes, to see if others felt the same thrilling jolt of realization? The beauty of the audiobook experience, much like the traditional act of reading, often feels like a solitary pleasure. You, the listener, and I, the narrator, share an intimate, direct connection, a whispered secret passed from author through my voice directly into your imagination. Yet, paradoxically, this seemingly solitary act is also a profound gateway to community. Every time you engage with the platform, every review you leave, every recommendation you consider, you are not merely performing a transactional act, you are contributing to a shared cultural dialogue. You are joining a grand conversation that spans continents and generations, connecting with countless individuals who share your passion for narrative, for mystery, and for the sheer joy of a well-told tale. This engagement is a multifaceted gem, shimmering with various benefits for both you and for the wider ecosystem of spoken literature. For you, it offers an avenue for expression, a chance to solidify your understanding of the story by articulating your thoughts, and a pathway to discover kindred spirits who share your taste in literature. It's an opportunity to move beyond passive consumption into active participation, transforming your listening experience from a mere pastime into a more enriching and interactive pursuit. For us, the creators and curators of these audio experiences, your engagement is nothing short of invaluable. It provides us with direct feedback, a compass that guides our future endeavors, helping us understand what resonates with you, what you appreciate, and where we might improve. Your reviews and recommendations quite literally fuel the engine of discovery, helping other potential listeners navigate the VA. Think back to those iconic moments in literature or film where the rug is suddenly pulled out from under you, revealing a completely different reality than the one you had so carefully constructed in your mind. Remember the collective gasp when you first understood the true nature of Kaiser Soze in The Usual Suspects, or the chilling realization of the child's plight in The Sixth Sense, or perhaps the unsettling unraveling of identity in Fight Club. Even in classic literature, the reveal of the murderer in an Agatha Christie novel, or the subtle misdirection in a Conan Doyle short story, carries a unique psychological punch. For those of us who cherish detective fiction, these aha moments are the very essence of the genre's appeal. In The Red House Mystery, A. Milne, with his characteristic wit and understated brilliance, crafts a mystery that, while perhaps less labyrinthine than some of its contemporaries, still offers a delightful challenge to the armchair detective. Were you completely blindsided by the resolution, Or did you, like the astute Anthony Gillingham, begin to piece together the subtle inconsistencies and overlooked details long before the final explanation? Perhaps a certain turn of phrase, an odd piece of behavior by a seemingly peripheral character, or a seemingly innocuous object mentioned early on, suddenly gained monumental significance in hindsight. It is this personal journey of deduction, the intimate dance between the author's clues and your own intellectual faculties, that we are so eager for you to share. Why does this particular act of sharing matter so much, both psychologically and practically? From a psychological perspective, articulating when you figured out the twist serves several crucial functions. Firstly, it provides a magnificent outlet for cognitive dissonance resolution. Throughout the story, your mind has been actively working, forming hypotheses, discarding theories, and trying to make sense of conflicting information. When the twist is revealed, whether you saw it coming or not, your brain undergoes a process of recalibration. Sharing your aha moment, or even your surprise at being completely wrong, helps to consolidate this new understanding. It's a way of processing the information, integrating the new reality into your mental model of the story, and affirming your experience. It moves the experience from a raw emotional and intellectual response to a more structured, reflective understanding. Secondly, there's the powerful drive for social validation. We are inherently social creatures, and when we experience something significant, particularly something that challenges our perceptions, there's a deep-seated desire to compare our experience with others. Did anyone else catch that clue? Was I clever for spotting it early, or perhaps delightfully duped like so many others? Your review becomes a beacon, inviting others to respond, to share their own journeys of deduction. It transforms a solitary intellectual exercise into a shared collective experience, reinforcing a sense of belonging within a community of like-minded listeners. It answers the implicit question, am I alone in feeling this way? Furthermore, sharing your specific moment of revelation taps into the psychological principle of reciprocity. I, as your narrator, and indeed the entire production team, have invested time and effort in bringing this story to life for you. By offering your insights, particularly such a personal reflection on the story's impact, you are returning that investment in a deeply meaningful way. It's not just a review, it's a personal testament to the story's effectiveness, a genuine piece of feedback that feels less like an obligation and more like a heartfelt contribution. It demonstrates that the story resonated with you, that it actively engaged your mind, which is the highest praise an author and narrator can hope for. There's also an element of catharsis involved. The intellectual tension of a good mystery, the anticipation of the reveal, can be quite potent. Articulate. It was an era that celebrated the triumph of intellect and logic over chaos, where eccentric investigators, often amateurs, used their formidable mental prowess to bring order to disarray. If you appreciated the gentle humor and the focus on character interaction in the Red House mystery, you might find immense joy in the works of Dorothy L. Sayers. Her aristocratic amateur sleuth, Lord Peter Wimsey, is a master of disguise, a connoisseur of fine books, and a man of surprising depth beneath his foppish exterior. Begin with Whose Body, or Whodunit, for a sublime blend of intricate plotting, brilliant prose, and engaging character development that goes far beyond mere puzzle solving. Sayers, like Milne, understood that a compelling mystery needed robust, believable characters to truly resonate. Or perhaps it was the sheer ingenuity of the puzzle that most captivated you. In that case, no recommendation would be complete without mentioning the undisputed queen of crime, Agatha Christie. Her bibliography is a vast ocean of delights, each novel a meticulously crafted clockwork mechanism of deception and revelation. If you enjoyed Milne's focus on a confined setting and a limited cast of suspects, almost a parlor game of deduction, Then and Then There Were None, Murder on the Orient Express, or The Murder of Roger Ackroyd offer unparalleled examples of this subgenre. Christie's ability to mislead, to hide crucial information in plain sight, and to deliver truly shocking conclusions is legendary, and her audiobooks are often brought to life by some of the finest narrators in the business. Beyond these titans, there are countless other gems waiting to be unearthed. Marjorie Allingham, with her urbane and enigmatic Albert Campion, offers a slightly darker, more psychological edge to her mysteries, exploring the complexities of human nature with keen insight. Try The Fashion in Shrouds or Tiger in the Smoke. Ngaio Marsh, a New Zealander who brought a distinctly theatrical flair to her mysteries, often set in the world of the stage, features the erudite Inspector Roderick Alleyn. Her novels, such as A Man Lay Dead or Opening Night, combine intricate plotting with vivid character portraits and atmospheric settings. G.K. Chesterton's Father Brown's stories are less about intricate plotting and more about profound psychological insights into the nature of sin and human folly, a delightful change of pace that still offers the satisfaction of clever solutions. From a psychological perspective, why does this recommendation for continued exploration matter? Firstly, there's the sheer anticipatory pleasure. The act of choosing your next audiobook is often almost as enjoyable as the listening itself. It's the thrill of the hunt, the promise of new worlds and new intellectual challenges. This anticipation triggers dopamine release in the brain, creating a positive feedback loop that encourages further engagement with the genre. You've had a wonderful experience, and now you're excited for the next one. Secondly, and quite powerfully, it taps into our innate human curiosity. We are creatures driven by the desire to explore, to learn, to experience novelty. While the Golden Age detective genre offers a familiar framework, the puzzle, the detective, the reveal, each author and each novel presents a unique variation on that theme. It allows for novelty within a comfortable and beloved structure, satisfying both our desire for the new and our preference for the familiar. You know you enjoy the intellectual rigor of a classic mystery, and now you have the opportunity to see how other masters of the craft approached the challenge. There's also the element of trust and authority. Having just guided you through the Red House mystery, I, as your narrator, become a trusted voice, an unofficial guide in your literary journey. My recommendations carry a certain weight because we've shared this experience together. You've implicitly trusted me to convey Milne's story faithfully, and now that trust extends to suggestions for your feud. This isn't just about making a single purchase, it's about building a lasting relationship with a source of consistent literary quality. The treasury of classic literature, particularly the golden age of detective fiction, is incredibly rich and deep. Many of these foundational works, the very stories that shaped the genre as we know it, are still awaiting their definitive audiobook narrations, or are being lovingly re-recorded with modern production values to bring them to a new generation of listeners. By subscribing, you are ensuring that you are at the forefront of these rediscoveries. You're not merely waiting for chance encounters with new books, you're actively inviting them into your listening queue. From a psychological standpoint, why is this act of subscribing or following so effective and important? Firstly, it fosters habit formation. By setting up a system where you are regularly notified of new releases in a genre you love, you are establishing a positive listening habit. This consistency reduces decision fatigue, that weariness that comes from constantly having to choose from too many options. Instead, the choice is simplified. A new classic mystery. Perfect for my next listen. This ease of access encourages continued engagement and ensures that your passion for these stories remains well fed. Secondly, it cultivates a powerful sense of belonging. When you subscribe, you become part of a specific community, those who value classic mysteries, who appreciate the craftsmanship of a well-told historical tale, and who actively seek out quality narration. It's a shared identity, a common thread that binds you with countless others who are equally enchanted by the cleverness of these stories. This sense of belonging reinforces your interest and makes the experience of listening feel less solitary and more communal, even if you're enjoying the audiobook by yourself. Thirdly, it taps into the principle of convenience and ease. In our fast-paced lives, anything that streamlines our access to enjoyable content is highly valued. Subscribing is the ultimate shortcut. It means you don't have to constantly search or stumble upon new releases. The information comes directly to you, effortlessly integrating into your digital life. This convenience removes barriers to entry, making it more likely that you will continue to explore and enjoy the genre. It's about making your intellectual pursuits as frictionless as possible. Furthermore, there's an element of exclusivity and privilege that often accompanies subscriptions. While the content itself may be available to all, subscribers often receive early notifications, special insights into upcoming projects, or even exclusive bonus content that non-subscribers might miss. This creates a feeling of being an insider, part of a select group that gets first access to exciting new developments. This psychological perk enhances the value of your engagement and reinforces your connection to the content creators. Finally, and perhaps most profoundly, subscribing leverages the psychological power of commitment and consistency. Once you've made the conscious decision to subscribe or follow, you've made a small commitment. Humans tend to be consistent with their commitments. This means you are more likely to act on the notifications you receive, to explore the recommended titles, and to continue your journey through the world of classic mysteries. It's a gentle nudge towards continued positive behavior, ensuring that your passion for literature remains active and engaged. So, how do you practically take this step? The process is typically very user-friendly. On most major audiobook platforms, whether it's Audible, Apple Books, Google Play Books, Kobo, or others, you will find options to follow or subscribe to specific publishers or even narrators. Look for buttons or links associated with the publisher's name, which will usually be displayed prominently alongside the book title and author or my narrator name. A simple click is usually all it takes. What will this achieve? The intellectual thrill of unraveling a meticulously constructed enigma, the engaging dance between author, narrator, and listener, is truly just the beginning of a deeper and more enriching engagement. We wholeheartedly invite you, our cherished listener, to extend your adventure, to connect with fellow enthusiasts, to share your insights, and to immerse yourself further in the boundless and magnificent tapestry of detective fiction that perpetually awaits. Many of the innovative platforms you utilize to enjoy audiobooks offer a wealth of fantastic, yet often underutilized, avenues for connection and discussion. Envision them as the modern-day equivalent of a grand, hushed library's reading room, where a passionate assembly of intellects gathers, eager to dissect intricate plot points, to robustly debate the nuanced motivations of complex characters, and to exuberantly share those exhilarating aha moments that make classic mysteries so profoundly rewarding. Take a moment to actively seek out community forums, vibrant comment sections nestled directly beneath the audiobook listing, or even exclusive, dedicated listener groups where you can delve with even greater depth into the myriad intricacies of the Red House mystery, or indeed, any other literary classic that has captured your imagination. Your unique perspectives, your meticulously constructed theories, whether they ultimately proved correct or led you down a delightful garden path of misdirection, and the sheer, unadulterated joy of deciphering a particularly clever twist, or of being utterly, gloriously blindsided by one, all contribute immeasurably to the collective richness of the experience for every single listener. Sharing your astute perspective not only profoundly enriches your own understanding of the narrative but also ignites genuinely fascinating and often quite spirited dialogues within the vibrant global community of mystery lovers. Imagine the sheer thrill of engaging in a lively discussion about the subtle, almost imperceptible clues, the brilliantly placed red herrings, and the ingenious narrative misdirect-ions that the masterful Mary Roberts Reinhardt so expertly and artfully wove into the very fabric of this compelling narrative, exchanging insights with fellow listeners from diverse corners of the world. It is a golden opportunity, a true privilege, to become an active participant in the story's ongoing legacy, to add your voice to the chorus of those who appreciate the timeless art of the whodunit. Furthermore, many of these forward-thinking platforms provide invaluable opportunities to connect directly with the dedicated creators behind this immersive audio experience. You might discover meticulously curated narrator pages or insightful producer profiles, allowing you to learn even more about the passionate individuals who devote their talent and energy to bringing these beloved stories, these literary treasures, to vibrant, audible life. Unearth captivating behind-the-scenes anecdotes that reveal the fascinating journey of production, delve into the unique challenges and profound joys of painstakingly adapting a classic novel for the distinct and demanding audio format, or even gain an exclusive sneak peek at tantalizing upcoming projects from the very voices and production teams you've come to appreciate and trust. We, as creators, pour our entire hearts and creative souls into these productions, relentlessly striving for absolute authenticity, impeccable fidelity to the original text, and an utterly immersive storytelling experience, and we genuinely cherish and deeply value the opportunity to forge a meaningful connection with you, our discerning audience. Please do not hesitate to explore these dynamic, interactive features. They are painstakingly designed to deepen your engagement, to foster a palpable sense of shared discovery and intellectual camaraderie, and crucially, to keep that invaluable spark of intellectual curiosity glowing brightly and perpetually within you. Your sustained interest is the very fuel for our creative pot. Allow me, if you will, to suggest a few meticulously curated pathways for your very next auditory adventure, each promising countless hours of immersive entertainment, profound intellectual satisfaction, and that unique thrill of the chase that only a truly great mystery can provide. Naturally, no comprehensive discussion of classic mysteries, particularly those of the Golden Age, would be truly complete, or even permissible, without a deeply reverent mention of the incomparable Queen of Crime herself, the one and only Dame Agatha Christie. Her astonishing and prolific body of work, a veritable treasure trove of unparalleled ingenuity, psychological depth, and narrative brilliance, is absolutely, without question, essential listening for any true connoisseur of the genre. Consider, as an exemplary starting point, her standalone masterpiece, And Then There Were None, a novel universally lauded for its unparalleled suspense, its chillingly claustrophobic atmosphere, and its truly masterful exploration of psychological tension and moral culpability. Or, if your preference leans towards a quintessential Hercule Poirot mystery, then The Murder of Roger Ackroyd stands as an indisputable landmark novel in the history of crime fiction, famed not only for its exquisitely ingenious plotting but also for its revolutionary and much debated twist, a narrative device so daring and unconventional that it single-handedly redefined the very boundaries and expectations of the genre, leaving readers stunned and critics divided for decades. Christie's genius lies in her ability to endlessly reinvent the murder mystery, making each new puzzle feel fresh and utterly compelling, even today. For those among you who appreciate not just cunningly intricate plots but also deeply engaging character development, sparkling, erudite dialogue, and a touch of sophisticated aristocratic flair, I wholeheartedly and without reservation recommend the truly magnificent works of Dorothy L. Sayers. Her iconic Lord Peter Wimsey series, which majestically commences with the brilliantly conceived Whose Body, introduces us to one of detective fiction's most charming, intellectually formidable, and eternally endearing sleuths. Sayers, with her unparalleled literary skill, deftly weaves intricate social commentary and profound philosophical questions into her perfectly crafted narratives, thereby consistently elevating the mystery genre from mere entertainment to a genuine art form. Her stories are not just puzzles, they are rich tapestries of human experience, wit, and wisdom, often exploring deeper themes of justice, morality, and societal norms. Titles such as Gaudy Night or Strong Poison offer not only baffling crimes but also wonderfully developed relationships and thought-provoking insights into academia and artistic life. If your particular preference leans towards atmospheric settings, perhaps imbued with a captivating dash of theatrical drama and meticulously observed character studies, then the compelling novels of Ngaio Marsh, featuring the urbane, culturally refined, and exceptionally perceptive Inspector Roderick Alleyn of Scotland Yard, will provide a truly delightful and immersive blend of sophisticated plotting, vivid world building, and keenly psychological insights. Embark on your Marsh journey with A Man Lay Dead to witness Alleyn's memorable debut amidst a country house murder game that takes a tragically real turn, or choose to completely immerse yourself in the psychological depths and societal critiques offered in A Surfeit of Lampreys, which, you may find, is also known as Death of a Peer in some treasured editions, where entrenched family secrets, bitter rivalries, and a complex web of intricate relationships inexorably drive the central enigma. Marsh's background in theater shines through, creating dramatic tension and richly drawn characters that feel utterly authentic. And let us most certainly not overlook the profound, often humorous, and always deeply clever paradoxes presented in G.K. Chesterton's immortal Father Brough. We are profoundly and passionately committed to bringing these literary treasures, these irreplaceable masterpieces of storytelling, to vibrant life with the utmost care, unwavering dedication, and profound respect for their original charm, narrative integrity, and historical context. Simultaneously, we are constantly striving to enhance your listening pleasure through the highest standards of audio production, employing talented narrators who truly embody the characters and bring the prose to life. Your subscription, you see, isn't just about passively receiving updates, it's about actively becoming a vital, contributing member of a growing and passionate community, a collective united by a shared, deep appreciation for the enduring appeal of quality storytelling and the timeless, irresistible allure of a truly good mystery. From the chillingly precise deductions of the legendary Sherlock Holmes to the deceptively quaint, yet profoundly shrewd, village mysteries of the inimitable Miss Marple, from the intricate legal puzzles and courtroom dramas of the ingenious Oral Stanley Gardner to the atmospheric, gothic thrillers of the pioneering Wilkie Collins, our meticulously curated and ever-expanding library is a testament to our dedication. We tirelessly seek to unearth, preserve, and present you with the very best of literary history's most intriguing minds, brought to life by exceptionally talented voice artists who breathe fresh, captivating new life into these beloved characters and timeless narratives. Our goal is to make these classics accessible and engaging for a modern audience, without ever compromising their original spirit. So, please do take a moment now, if you will, to reach for that subscribe button, to click follow on our profile, or to lovingly mark us as a favorite. It's a simple, wonderfully effortless step that guarantees you'll remain seamlessly and perpetually connected to a vibrant, ever-unfolding world of compelling narratives, cunning culprits who challenge your intellect, and brilliant detectives who inspire awe. Your ongoing support, your enthusiastic engagement, and your thoughtful feedback are not merely appreciated, they are, to us, absolutely essential and profoundly encouraging. They are the very cornerstone that helps us to continue our vital mission, to unearth, to meticulously revive, and to expertly adapt more of these wonderful, often overlooked, stories, bringing them to you in the most accessible, engaging, and utterly immersive audio format possible. This endeavor is a labor of love, a dedication to preserving and sharing literary heritage, and your support makes it all possible. Thank you once again, from the deepest reaches of my heart, for joining me on this particular, enthralling adventure through the intriguing corridors and closely guarded secrets of the Red House mystery. It has been an immense and deeply cherished privilege to share this captivating experience with you. I truly, genuinely look forward to our next meeting, whenever and wherever that may fortuitously be, within the boundless and exquisitely beautiful realm of stories. Until then, I implore you, keep that keen detective's eye and ear ever sharp. Continue to seek out those delightful intellectual challenges that invigorate the mind. Happy listening, and may your journey through the vast, enchanting landscape of literature always be filled with unexpected and joyous discoveries, profoundly satisfying conclusions, and the lingering, intoxicating thrill of a wonderfully, brilliantly told tale. Farewell for now, and may your future listens be as golden as the age of detection itself. Thank you for listening to this audiobook. If you found value, meaning, or inspiration in this journey, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next chapter. Your support helps us bring more timeless classics to life. See you in the next reading.